the deeper your intention, the more specific the intention, the more unique intention, the more love there is. That's what a human being is. A human being is exponentially unique, intended by reality. And the actual experience as a pointing out instruction for actual enlightenment, that's what we mean by the democratization of enlightenment. We can actually access the enlightened experience. So unique self itself is a pointing out instruction for my own enlightenment. I actually have an experience of reality intending me. It's like, wow, I have an experience of reality choosing me.
We're at a time in our world where we need to birth a new story. And there is nobody that I know who has thought through what this new story might look like more than Dr. Rabbi Marc Gafni. We're going to go deep on a multi-episode journey, exploring the big questions. Who are you? Where are you? What do you want? What can you do about it? And how we can all participate in a field of shared value so that we can realize that truly we're all on the same team, Team Earth, Team People, Team Cosmos, and we must come together to address the existential threats that are all around us and also just live the most fulfilled, happy, flourishing, thriving, beautiful life that we can possibly live. This is our third episode with Rabbi Marc Gafni. If you're interested in the first two, make sure to check them out on YouTube and anywhere podcasts are listed, and look forward to more coming up soon.
Immanananda ho ho ho, immanananda hey, immanananda hey, immanananda hey, immanananda ho ho, immanananda hey, immanananda ho ho.
Ho,
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 hey-o.
Good morning, Vietnam. Robin Williams. Oh my
Yep.
God. Yeah, Robin was great, wasn't he?
He was great.
I know. I miss him.
Too bad somebody wasn't a little bit closer on the inside.
Right? It
help
was
him
a
out
tragic
little bit.
story. Now, I was getting a haircut in San Anselmo with my little son, and he lives in San Anselmo, and we went to the same haircut place. And I was doing a routine I thought was a quite funny routine, with my son. And he's kind of watching me kind of as if he's taking notes. So, as I walk out, I say, hey, you can have all the material. He was sweet and just lovely and just a great guy.
I bet.
Yeah, great guy.
Yeah.
Blessings to Robin Williams.
Blessings, Robin Williams.
Good morning, Vietnam.
Mm-hmm.
Yay.
Well, here we are, brother.
Here we are. Yay.
Here we are. We got some cool shit to talk about today.
This is the big day. This is right. This is the big day on Unique Self. Like we've set up the frame, and now we get to go. Well, how does your friend Chris say it?
Does it grow corn?
Does it grow corn? Right? Does it grow corn? Yay. So where should we start with? I mean, I'll tell you a story.
Sure.
So there's two versions to the story. There's two parts to it, but we'll give you both of them really quickly. So I am at a very famous school in America, Exeter Academy, and I'm talking to this fantastic group of just young people about, is there anything in the world that actually obligates you, for which you're actually responsible, meaning not I want to do it, not it's a nice thing to do. You got to do that, right? It's got to be done, right? There's a kind of demand by cosmos. And does cosmos ever demand something from us? Does it actually say, hey, I need you to do this, and this is your student, you got to do it? Mm-hmm. And their assumption was no, because they were deeply educated in that kind of postmodern context that we talked about earlier, and they're validated by the entire postmodern structure. And we looked at Yuval Harari as a kind of parrot of postmodernity, and we argued about whether he was a good guy or a bad guy. Mm-hmm. Right? So Yuval, we're working that one, brother. Right? I'm standing for you. Aubrey's a little suspicious. A little suspicious, right? And I shared with them a story, this is with the, 500, young men and women. And I shared it not only with them, but this same scenario with, a couple of dozen leading centers of education, high school and college, over a period of years. And the image or the story or the hypothetical is as follows. You're on a plane, the plane crashes, or shipwrecks. deserted island. It's you and Mother Teresa are the only survivors. And the reason I use Mother Teresa, because I had, when I started offering this example, I just read like the second of her kind of biographies, and she was tough. I mean, she was like, you think Mother Teresa was this very sweet lady holding a baby from Calcutta. She did great, gorgeous things in the world, lived a tragic life, actually never heard God talking. I mean, she could never find the divine. She actually acted despite that in a very beautiful way. It was really gorgeous. And she was trying to create an order out of the Vatican, which is a profoundly beautiful and profoundly corrupt, with genuine decadence, institution, which is not easy. So she's a hard woman, and her biographers describe her as such. So
I heard that, and this is a total tangent, but I heard that sometimes he would just grab a baby from an orphanage or something like that, go knock on a door, and it was Mother Teresa. So you answered the door, and then just hand the baby.
Right.
And they'd be like, and she'd be like, yep.
Yeah,
yours now.
Yeah, it's yours. Yeah.
And so like that was like some
that's a beautiful
intense,
story.
That's tekufot right there.
Yeah, totally. That's tekufot, right? Tekufot as in, right, the radical audacity that it comes from the humility of knowing that it all moves through you. Tekufot, that great lineage word, right? Right, Tekufot, tekufot. Right, so, and that was her audacity. And she was also tough and hard. So here you are with Mother Teresa. You're on an island. And it turns out, and apologize for all you Mother Teresa fans, we're total Mother Teresa fans, but turns out she's impossible. She's driving you out of your mind. Hypothetically, you're never going to be rescued. So it's never, right? This is kind of like Dostoevsky, when Raskolnikov kills the old woman in the famous Dostoevsky novel, right? The meta-theoretics is he'll never be caught. Can he get away with murdering the old woman, right? Even though he'll never be caught, has he actually violated something? That's the question Dostoevsky was asking. So I asked him a version of the same question. So you're there with Mother Teresa. You've been there for 10 years. You feel like if you hear her talk one more time, she's going to fucking kill you, right? Like you're just dying, right? She reminds you of your mother. It's nails, right? I apologize. Right? You can't even do it, right? And you're never going to be rescued. And she has a diving accident. Why she's diving, I don't know. I made that up along the way someplace, maybe from the shipwreck, diving gear was still there. You happen to be a doctor. Why you're a doctor, that's also made up in the story. But basically, we create this trolley car problem. You fix her hands, right? She broke both hands diving. They're now out in splints in front of her, and she can't feed herself. What do? Do you have an obligation to feed her? Now, the answer to that question is yes. It's actually not a hard question. But 5/6, without hyperbole, without exaggeration, of the leading edge, young men and women, high school and college, from education around the world, said, you cannot say that you're obligated to feed her. You can't. And that's like, wow, right? And the other 6 pretty much were from fundamentalist world, and they said, yes, you do because God commanded it, which is, that's a step ahead, right? But still,
or a step behind,
but it's also got a regressive dimension to it. But to think that 5/6 of the people said you can't, it's a good thing to do. It might be a nice thing. You probably should, but you can't really say should with a capital S. And you can't say that you have to do this because there is no intrinsic sense of value. Right? There's no intrinsic thing which is not, and that's where Harari's parroting postmodernism says all value is fiction, social construct, figment of our imagination. Now, that's tragic. And, and the second part of the story is I then met with, a key figure, whose name I won't mention, at Harvard Divinity School, who was teaching there. And I went over with her the same question, and she, of course, agreed with the students. It'd be, of course, of course we should take care of that woman, but not really should with a lowercase s. You can't formulate it. And I discussed this with, leading edge, serious thinkers, theologians, pretty much universal agreement. You can't formulate that as an absolute obligation. It can be utilitarian. You create a better society that way, because what kind of society would it be? But that falls down because, of course, you're never going to be rescued, so it doesn't impact society. That's why I isolated that way. I wanted to take it out of that utilitarian ethic. No, you're never going to be rescued. This is not going to affect society in any way whatsoever. So in that isolated place, do you have the obligation or not? The answer is, of course, you do. And it's the breakdown of value, which suggests that you don't. But here's where unique self comes in. Here's where it gets crazy exciting. And we were able to actually formulate, and it took us 20 years to formulate a clean, clear sense of what am I obligated to do? But before we formulate it, I just want to say in Hebrew, it's very beautiful. The word obligation and the word love are the same word. So meaning obligation means the love intelligence moving in me demands a certain kind of expression of loving that moves in me, as me, and through me that doesn't move through anyone else but me. And remember, and this is a good place to maybe review it for a second for people. Remember our 70 seconds, then we did another 13 seconds in our last dialogue, and I had 7 seconds to spare, which is what's the formula of unique self? So unique self is who are you? You're an irreducibly unique expression of the love intelligence and love beauty and love desire. Now we do it slowly, of all that is, that lives in you, as you and through you, that ever was, is, or will be ever again other than through you. And as such, you have a unique perspective, you have a unique capacity, you have a unique quality of intimacy that come together to foster your unique gift that you need to give to your unique circle of intimacy and influence, right? It fosters your unique gift, which addresses a unique need in your unique circle of intimacy and influence. And that is your unique responsibility. That's your unique obligation.
Mm-hmm.
Whoa. So now all of a sudden, right, this is going to grow some corn.
Yep.
Okay, let's grow some corn here now.
Yep.
So what are you obligated to do? But obligation is not imposed by some caricatured God, right? Or some caricatured government, right? The God you don't believe in doesn't exist. Not that crazy God that you don't believe in. That God doesn't exist. This is the love intelligence of cosmos, right, that moves through you, that makes this demand and radical love, just like when you're madly in love. You're madly in love with Lady Vi, right? You are, right? I know. I'm staying at your house this week and I see it, right? In and out every day, right? Behind the scenes, right? It's beautiful. Does that make a demand on you? Of course it does.
Yeah, it does.
Of course it does. Is it like, no, it's an option? No, actually, it's the most intense and real demand. So let's formulate for the first time in a postmodern moment. And it's not by accident that we're formulating this here on a podcast and not at Harvard Divinity School, because Harvard Divinity School has become a kind of, and that whole institutional framework of the academy has become kind of a hothouse of mediocrity. And it keep repeating the same old postmodern, destructions of value because they don't want to go to regressive value, right? Fundamentalist value. But we actually haven't engaged after all the deconstruction of postmodernity in the reconstructive project. So the reconstructive project begins right here, right now, on this podcast. So here we go. So here's how obligation works. And it's very beautiful. 1, you see a need, right? So A, there's a need, A. B, you discern the need. You see the need. 3, it's a real need. It's a genuine, authentic, it's a real need. 4, you have the capacity to meet that need. 5, you're the only person in the entire world that at this moment in time has that capacity in the unique way that's yours to do to meet that need. So you have a unique capacity to meet that need that no one else alive in reality at this time has. Now, that's kind of wildly exciting because what this story does for us is, right, it's why it's so beautiful. You're on this island. You're the only person there. So you've got an obvious expression of number 5. You're the only one who can possibly do this. But if you actually have a realization of unique self, if you actually get that you're not defined by your comparison to another person, that you're not actually in an Instagram game, that you're not actually trying to accumulate likes against someone else, meaning you're not in a rivalrous conflict governed by win-lose metrics, which is a generator function of existential risk. You're actually in your unique self. Then you understand that actually every single moment of every single day, you have a unique gift to give and a unique life to live, right? That actually every single moment of every single day, the love intelligence and love beauty and love desire of all that is moves in you, as you, and through you, and is whispering in your ear and saying, hey, I need you. There's something I need you to do that I can't get done without you.
Lechisha, the whisper.
Right? It's a lechisha, the lineage says. It's a whisper. It's called lechisha de oraita, right? The whisperings of the light.
So let's play.
Wow.
Let's play a little bit.
Let's play a little bit.
All right. So I'm gonna give example of
Okay, here we
something
go.
that's very similar to the Mother Teresa example, but actually happened to me.
Okay, here we go.
Downtown.
Downtown.
And I'm on my way to this club called Summit. I used to go there every once in a while, probably once a month or so. We'd get a little table at the rooftop and we dance, we have some fun. I'm on my way there. And as there's a street that turns, onto the main street, 5th Street, where I was going, and there's somebody crossing the street. This truck takes the turn, pretty fast without looking, and hits the guy.
Oof.
Not too hard, but hit him enough that he kind of whiplashed and then cracked his
Wow.
head on the pavement.
Wow.
And I'm the closest guy to that guy.
Right.
So I spring into action. I pull my shirt off and I wrap it around his head because his head was bleeding. And I'm, shouting out directions for somebody else because I'm cradling his head.
Yeah.
And have my shirt
Yeah.
wrapped around it and kind of
Yeah.
have my hand on his chest, like it's gonna
Yeah.
be all right, brother. But we got the ambulance coming. I'm
Yeah.
just doing what I can. I'm not a fucking medic, but I figured
Right.
that was the best thing to do. Maybe stop some of the bleeding. Maybe keep his head from
Right.
rolling around on the pavement. Maybe
Yeah.
comfort him. That was mine in that time. That was
yours in
my
that time.
obligation to do that.
That was your
And
obligation in that time, meaning it wasn't an option.
Yep.
And even though you couldn't be criminally prosecuted, and this is what's interesting.
Yep.
And it's the law doesn't formulate that obligation.
Yep.
Meaning, had someone call an ambulance, or even had you walked on, right, the law, right, actually avoids obligation.
Mhm.
Right? And actually, in that moment in time, your unique perspective, your unique quality of intimacy, your unique capacity was at play. And that's a gorgeous example because, like the Mother Teresa example, it accomplishes the same thing.
Yep.
Right? You actually realize the experience of uniqueness. So think about this. It gets completely crazy and beautiful now in the most elegant way. So in terms of ourselves that we talked about in part 1 of the dialogue, so if you're true self, you don't have the experience of being personally addressed by reality, with reality making a demand on you. You can't formulate responsibility and obligation. It's just this generic sense of love, but love doesn't move uniquely through you. The evolutionary impulse of love, evolutionary love, Eros doesn't move through you. So you're left in this space where you're never personally addressed. There's never a demand, right, ever on you. And that's actually not only a pathetic life, but a life which is radically filled with depression and breakdown, because depression is replaceability, right?
Yeah.
Right. And if I'm replaceable, if I'm not needed, I'm depressed. And here's the second thing. And then back to you, brother, separate self. So if you're a separate self, that's what we just, you're a separate self, you can't formulate obligation. That's why if you were a separate self, there's no way to formulate an obligation for you to stop, as you did so beautifully, find that man, rip your shirt off, put his, head in your arms, hold him. And I know you, brother, I'm sure you were radically present. So kind of fullness of presence. You stepped into the inside of the reality. These are faces of Eros, a dialogue we almost haven't, we did a beginning dialogue on, but Eros means I'm on the inside, I'm fully present. I'm part of the whole. So in that moment, there you are, part of the whole. You are the expression of the whole itself in that moment. It's all moving through you. You get very calm because the whole's moving through you,
Yep.
right? Your interiority is fully present with the guy. He can feel you, and God has now acted through you.
Mm-hmm.
Not that God wasn't there. God was there having an Aubrey experience, but separate self can't formulate that.
Yeah.
You have no obligation. You're not called. And true self can't formulate it, which is why a society built on separate self is bound to collapse, because it's a society built, particularly an open society, where there's no top-down imposition, like a closed society, will collapse. And in India, right, or a kind of Eastern society whose ethos is rooted in true self, will have an ashram in the middle of a neighborhood of abject poverty, and it'll be deep in its own meditation and won't engage what's all around it, because it's true self.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So I'm not engaging. I don't need to engage. There's no demand by cosmos that I engage. It's only unique self that can formulate the love demand of cosmos, but it's demand that's of enormous joy. It's the demand that Lady Vi's presence makes an Aubrey.
Yeah.
The love intelligence, uniquely love desire and love beauty awaken alive in you.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a choice for those in the ashram to take the bodhisattva path or not in a kind of a way. It's like either way, either stay here and meditate or enter into the fray.
Either I'll be
out
an
of your-
Earhart, as they call it, meaning
Mhm.
I won't enter the fray, or I'll be a bodhisattva, but my gig.
Right.
My gig. And we just, we have to get to the bodhisattva, right? And a genuine, unique self-experience means that I'm obligated to be a bodhisattva. And that word bodhisattva,
Right.
meaning bodhisattva, meaning I'm going to actually not just experience my own enlightenment as true self, but I'm going to go and bring everyone with me, right, on the path to their fullest realization. That is in unique self. That is there's a unique, and actually in the Unique Self book in chapter 4, there's a section called the Unique Bodhisattva Vow. So you just blew it out of the water.
It's like Snoop Dogg says, it ain't no fun if the homies don't have none.
Snoop Dogg it is, man.
But Snoop Dogg the Bodhisattva.
Snoop Dogg the Bodhisattva. We got it. That's good. Snoop Dogg's a Bodhisattva, right? And Snoop Dogg
At least when he's passing joints and gin and juice.
Oh my God, Snoop Dogg. Yes.
So the other thing I was just going to contrast with is similar situation. I'm actually driving in a car and I'm going down one side. It's a much bigger road. It's the road Cesar Chavez, going down one side, going home late at night. And there's this guy who tries to make a run across, just without any lights, run across both sides. He runs across my side, plenty of room across my side, but he didn't see there was another car coming on the other side. Faster car. And he's kind of lumbering. He thought he could make it, couldn't make it. The other car slams on the brakes, not enough time. And the guy hits the car and then goes up over the car, which is good. He didn't get pinned underneath it. It kind of took his feet out. But it was a big hit. And
big hit.
So I'm driving. I pull over and I look back and I see 4 cars pulled over. I see somebody on the phone. I'm listening to what's going on. There was people with him. There was people calling. And then I was like, okay, I can keep driving.
They got this.
I am not uniquely needed.
Right.
There's nothing actually that I can add. I'm not a fucking medic. I'm not a doctor.
Right.
I don't have a unique set of skills that actually makes me better and more equipped to handle this than anybody else. The ambulance has already been called. And actually we saw the ambulances racing by us on the way home, and it's like, okay, that was the difference. It was like, I was not, while I would have helped if I was on the other side of the road. I was first there, but because it was just a slightly different situation in which I could make the assessment no, actually, this isn't mine. And I can keep going.
So gorgeous. And there's a key word you just said, brother. I could make the assessment.
Yeah.
That's the phrase, right? Meaning I actually have the capacity to discern. In the true self world, there's what they call an inquiry question. And the inquiry question is, who am I? Right? In unique self-enlightenment, if you will. But when I say unique self-enlightenment, I mean unique self-enlightenment not as the practice of the elite, but what we call the democratization of enlightenment, right? And unique self allows for the democratization of enlightenment. It actually demands it because you can't just have an elite that have realized their true self, meaning their identity with all that is. Actually, for unique self-enlightenment, you need every unique self to be realized, to be self-organizing or self-actualizing based on the allure or the call of their uniqueness. Because my uniqueness is my unique set of allurements. That's actually what it is. So for Ramana Maharshi, the question is, who am I? And when I'm supposed to realize, who am I? Right, I'm the whole thing. Right, I'm one with consciousness. But then that's the end of the story. In unique self-enlightenment, it's, who am I? You're a unique self. Right? And if you really ask the question well, you'll get, who am I? Your unique self. You're an irreducible, unique expression of the love, intelligence, and love, beauty of all that is, that lives in you, as you, and through you, that never will be, is, ever again, other than through you and us, right? You'll get the whole thing.
I see now how you really kind of cheated a little bit when you said you could get
a little hustling. It was a little hustling.
You hustled me.
It was a hustle.
Yesterday.
It was a hustle.
When I challenged you to say something in less than 90 seconds, you have it rehearsed.
Not rehearsed.
You knew your timing.
I wasn't rehearsed, but I did know the timing, and it was a hustle. Right? And which is why I regretted not making a bet. I'm telling you, right? That was like, what the fuck was I doing? I knew I could do it. Why didn't I make a bet? Complete lost opportunity.
You did. You hustled me.
Lost opportunity, right? So
I think you tried to hustle me in ping pong too, but actually there was just too much of a gap.
to go to the ping pong gap between us in the middle of a dialogue where we're trying to change culture is just a cruel thing to do. So I'm just saying we're not going to go there right now.
Okay, leave it.
Okay, but I got a couple good slams in there.
You did.
I did a couple.
You
I did some.
You did. That's why I was saying there was a little bit of hustler.
Yeah,
in
there was.
You're like, I don't know if I can really do this. Well, bam.
Well, that was.
But then I returned it, and then you were like,
Oh, that was a problem. But we're just at the beginning of the ping pong conversation.
Oh yeah, okay.
We're at the beginning. Okay, so here we go. So as unique self, and it's very beautiful. The question is, who am I? One, your unique self, and then it elicits a second question. And this is the real inquiry question. What does reality need from me in this moment? That's the unique self inquiry. And that inquiry by itself, and the reason we can joke about ping pong is because reality doesn't need me to win a ping pong game.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we can be enjoy about. We can play.
Right.
That's the gorgeousness of play. We get to step into play. And then we get into the incredibly seriousness of life, which has joy. It's actually even a deeper play. And the deeper joy is the joy of being unique self and knowing that all of reality is turning to me in this moment. I'm literally center stage and reality needs my service. And that's a lineage phrase, 16th century Ibn Gabai. Avodat tzorech gavoa, reality needs your service. And I just want to say, holy brother, right? That does so much more than Prozac, right? And as the actual experience, reality needs Christian. Reality needs Ryan, our friends with us in the studio today. And I'm actually needed by reality, and that no one that ever was, is, or will be, or who's alive at this moment, right, can address that need other than me. That's joy.
Well, yes, and all that's absolutely true. And it can also be a source of deep challenge, because I've experienced this challenge as well. When you recognize that you have unique gifts, there are things that only I can offer. And that anytime
Is
you're
there
an
ever
artist,
joy without deep challenge?
That's
right?
true. That's true.
Right?
But let me just illuminate
Go.
the challenge for people
please.
is when you recognize that you are a unique self and you do have unique gifts. At any given moment, there's something uniquely I could do that would be of unique service to the world. I could reach an audience. I craft a post. I make a poem. I write another newsletter. I make another connection, or even I offer my body work, which is a radically unique experience that I was trained, one of one and from the lineage from Parangi. There's so many things that I could do that there's almost an near infinite amount of things that I could do in a finite amount of time and energy. And so actually the discernment gets sometimes difficult.
So now I get it. So this is a great inquiry, right? So in other words, how do I make that discernment?
Mm-hmm.
Right? In other words, it's never ending.
Right.
So one, it is never ending, right? So, you know what I mean? Yeah, it's actually, and there's an insane joy in that comes with meeting that challenge. So it is never ending. And reality demands mad love of my beloved and all my beloveds, and mad love of myself. And we can actually move into love here a little bit. But part of loving myself is the ability to nourish myself, the ability to nurture myself. And I nurture myself through play. I nurture myself through making love. And I nurture myself through playing ping pong with Marc.
Yeah.
Right? Well, when I destroy him, and I feel really good about winning that game with my left hand, right? Right? It's a lot of nurturance going on there, right? But there's an enormous delight, and we don't know how to do self-love, right? So because we don't know how to do self-love, we don't actually get that if you're not in mad devotion to yourself, you can't be in mad devotion to anyone else. Because not only is everybody else the unique self, I'm a unique self.
Yeah.
And we kind of move into the love thing here. Love actually is not an emotion. Love at its core is a perception, which is a huge, beautiful idea. And we can talk about love here a little bit, but just for now, in terms of what you're talking about, so love's not an emotion, right? That actually destroys love, because the emotion is energy in motion, and then it's gone. Right? You get hit by Cupid's arrow, and then it hits the secretary, it's gone. You can't control that arrow. It's an emotion happening to you, which is why all of love language is passive. I fell in love, right? I fell in love, right? I was love struck, right? Love's always happening to me. It's always Cupid's arrow that happens to get fired at me, happens to hit me. But then when the holy poison in the arrow wears off, I'm out of the game. So that's a great tragedy of how we understand love. And we can talk about it in more depth. But love at its core is not an emotion. Love is a perception. It's a stunning realization. And it's not just a perception, it's a unique self-perception.
Yeah.
So
Isn't that type of love,
it's exciting.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course. The type of cupidinous love. What's interesting is I believe from my studies of antiquities, that's actually what they would have called Eros back in the Hellenistic and kind of Roman times, right?
Yeah, Eros.
But you've reclaimed that word in a different way.
Eros, right? Eros is a big word, right? Eros is a big word. That's a big but Eros is the experience of reality. It's the experience of radical aliveness in reality. It's reality seeking, desiring contact, and desiring the creation of greater wholeness. Now, one of the methodologies of Eros is to see, to perceive, right? So Eros awaken the human being the way I make contact, right? Because Eros is the experience. We have an Eros equation in the interior sciences that we've developed in this new story of value in cosmologic humanism. And the equation is Eros equals radical aliveness, desiring ever deeper contact, generating ever greater wholes and wholeness. That's an Eros equation. And of course, these last two conversations, we've been talking about this new story of value in cosmoerotic humanism. So in this new story of value, Eros is at the core, cosmoerotic humanism. We live in a world that is lined with Eros. Eros lives in us, as us, and through us. So as Eros goes from matter, right, to life, the biological world, into the human mind, into the depth of the self-reflective human, and then awakens as a human being, in the human being, the desire for contact isn't only physical. We want to touch each other. We want to touch each other physically. We want to touch each other emotionally. We want to touch each other existentially. We want to touch each other spiritually. We want to touch each other psychologically. So that's what love is. Love is the perception, the contact I make by seeing you. So love is a unique self-perception, meaning I see your Aubrey-ness, right? That's what it means, right? So for me to love Aubrey is I see and feel his Aubrey-ness, and I'm delighted by Aubrey-ness. Aubrey-ness gives me joy. So that's a big deal. Love's a unique. Now, it says, love your neighbor, love your friend, sacred text, as yourself. You have to love yourself. So self-love is also a unique self-perception. It's a self-perception of my unique self. And if I would want you, Ab, to be able to play and to be nurtured and to be in celebration, because I see your unique self and I see that it's worthy and it deserves the experience of radical joy and of giving your gift and writing your poem and singing your song and being in the spaciousness, right, of reality and the self-evident goodness, right, for its own sake. We call that in the lineage lishma. I do things for their own sake, for its own sake. Then if I only do that for you, I don't do it for myself, then I'm actually slapping the goddess in the face, right? Because love your friend, sacred text, kamocha, the way you love yourself. And just like you love your beloved as unique self-perception, I love Aubrey-ness. If I don't love Markness, ultimately, I can't love Aubrey-ness.
Yeah.
So we have already started reading and accepting applications for Fit for Service 2023. And I wanted to let y'all know we got confirmations from some of our guests who are going to be there, which if you're a fan of the podcast, you'll be familiar with these names. My brother, Aaron Rodgers, is going to come and participate and speak. Peter Crone, who's been a 3-time podcast guest. If you haven't listened to any of those, definitely check them out. Dr. John Churchill, Dr. Kelly Brogan. There's Matthias DeStefano, who we've done several podcasts with, Robert Edward Grant, who's been a 2-time podcast guest. I mean, some of the most incredible individuals are going to be a part of this. And this is just the start of a very long list of people that we're bringing into this year-long program. And maybe it's going to be the interactions with those people that'll change your life. Maybe it will be with one of our coaches, myself, or Eric Godsey, or Caitlin Howe, or Vailana, or Kyle Kingsbury. Or maybe it will just be with the people themselves. I mean, this is a network of some of the highest performing, heart-forward people that I've ever intermingled with. And some of my best friends have come out of this Fit for Service program. And every single member has some of their best friends coming out of the Fit for Service program. This is an alumni network that can help get you from where you are to that path, your dharmic path of where you want to go truly, and be fit to actually walk that path, a path that you might not have even dared to dream, a path that might not even be available. But here it is, like right here in front of you as an opportunity. So if you're interested, definitely check it out. Go to fitforservice.com. Applications are only open up through December. And also, just so you know, this is an opportunity for a free call. Like you can join Fit for Service, have 3 months of coaching, come to a summit. And if you don't get out of it what we expect for you to get out of it, or what actually will serve your life in the best way, we'll give you all of your money back. Like genuinely. There's no risk and only the upside of what this could bring into your life. So take the chance, take the leap, salto mortale. Like this is your life. This is your one chance to live the life that you really dream. And potentially this is the next best step to help you get there. And there's not a risk for you to try. So once again, if you're interested, just go to fitforservice.com. Applications are open now.
The way out for me is to actually listen to my own unique allurement and actually start to trust that what I want to do is actually so much closer to what I'm obligated to do if I actually clarify what I want to do, right? Because in this thing, we're talking about your ability to give your unique gift and meet a unique need is your unique obligation. But then when you have an near infinite set of potential obligations because you have unique gifts that offer
a range of unique
gifts.
And you have to decide in every minute which one to do.
Yeah. And really it's some part, it can be strategy and you can figure it out. But actually the part that I've found personally is I'm actually drawn towards it. I want to do it. And when I want to do it, it happens so much more powerfully, magically, beautifully. And to learn to trust my own desire again and say, actually, my desire is truly pointing me in the right way. And to know when there may be a desire that's like, oh, okay, this is another part of me. This is a separate self-desire. Got it. And that's berur, and that's another big topic. It's a clarification of desire. But to learn to trust my own desire has been the way out of this riddle.
It's gorgeous, right? Gorgeous. Because, I mean, that's like bases loaded, bottom of the ninth, right? Because who are you? We said yesterday, you are desire, right? In other words, and so let's go back. Let's rewind. Let's rewind to that hustle from yesterday, right? But just kind of, it's very beautiful to see it. Kind of, we can even see it on the screen, right? Who are you? You're an irreducible, unique expression of the love intelligence, the love beauty, and the love desire of all that is that lives in you, as you, and through you, right? That has unique perspective, unique quality of intimacy, that foster your unique gift, that allow you to address a unique need in your unique circle of intimacy and influence. So what you just did is, very beautifully, is you picked up and amplified one part of the equation that, of course, we hadn't talked about, which is I'm a unique expression. Aubrey's a unique expression of love desire. Now, another word for desire is allurement. And so that's the equation. So Aubrey's a unique set of allurements. So it's not that obligation is imposed from without. That is to say, from something which violates your essence. When you hear the word obligation, do you go like, yes? No, you go like, oh, right? And the word obligation, it's a bad word. And the original Hebrew word chovah, which we said earlier, plays with the word love. It's the same root as the word love. It's a much better word, right? In other words, what tells me that I'm obligated or I'm being demanded by love is what you just described gorgeously, my allurement. I want to do that. I'm allured to do that. And my unique self is my unique set of allurements. And it's cosmic allurement moves uniquely through me. And when we say reality is Eros, we talked about this maybe in our first dialogue, right? Eros runs through all of reality. right? Alluring together subatomic particles to form atoms, and atoms to form molecules, and molecules to form macromolecules, and macromolecules form, primary cells, and then multicellular, then organisms, and neural net, neural cord, and all the way up the evolutionary chain. So allurement's driving the whole thing. You and I are talking to each other because we were allured to have a conversation, right? So to know, to listen, and know Aubrey's unique set of allurements, and you invoked a critical lineage word, bearer. You have to clarify, is this what I'm allured to do? Am I covering up some early issue? Attachment theory, do I've got a trauma that I'm trying to deal with? Is it pseudo-eros or pseudo-allurement? Or am I actually allured? So to listen to the murmurings of your own allurement is what it means to be enlightened.
Yep.
But every human being has that capacity, so we can talk about the democratization of enlightenment. And now again, we're growing corn here.
Yeah.
We're growing corn.
Another interesting aspect that I meditated on is people are always looking to equate your purity with this lack of desire, right? Like as if if you want to do it, like if you really want to be president and you're president, it's like, oh, well, no, that you're fucked up. That's just your ego. This is an ego game. But actually, all of these things can go hand in hand, and you can through Baruch clarify like where there's a little part like, yeah, my ego wants to have this position and hold that title, but also I'm drawn to this. I'm drawn to this by the unique need of the cosmos and the unique ability for me to give this gift. And it's okay to want to do the right thing and to want to do the thing and actually to take great pleasure in doing it. And you can still be trustable.
Yeah.
And actually you're only trustable when you acknowledge that.
Yeah.
Because there's this old motto of like the only worthy leader is the farmer who doesn't want to be the leader. Or like, George Washington's like, no, I don't want to do. Oh, okay, if I have to. Not like, yeah, let's go fucking kill some redcoats. Like I'm fucking into this. Let's lead the revolution. Like you'd be like, can we trust him?
Right.
It's this very strange thing where if you actually enjoy what you're called to do and really take pleasure in it, people get skeptical of you.
Right. I'm going to bracket the kill some redcoats thing, so we'll get back to that.
Right.
But I got the gentleman. I mean, you're batting 1,000 here because what are you saying? So let's just pick this up and find it. What we're saying is that first off, desires at the center, and it's my desires and clarifying my desires. You can't talk about unique self. You can't formulate obligation without desire. Without knowing my desire and clarifying my desire, there's no move.
Yep.
Right? And the ability to trust my own knowing of my own desire is huge. And actually, in the end, the only person you can trust is yourself. In other words, you can trust other people to give you advice, to reflect yourself back to you. You can do a 360 and get important information about yourself. But in the end, the only person who can actually own your enlightenment is yourself. It's unique self-enlightenment, which is why unique self theory intentionally kills the guru, not the teacher, not the guide, not the coach, right? There's lots of important roles in the world, but the guru who says, I'm telling you what you should be doing, the guru has to be killed on the path. You meet the guru on the path, kill them with unique self-enlightenment, because if enlightenment means I've got more true self-realization, Aubrey's got more true self than Marc, or Marc has than Aubrey, well, I'm your guru. You're my guru, right? So I'll tell you the way. But I can't have more of your unique self than you.
Yeah.
By definition.
Yeah.
There's no way Marc can have more of Aubrey's unique self than Aubrey. Can't be. Not possible. Right? So therefore, Aubrey has, and this is the idea of autonomy, as an ultimate, he's part of the unique self symphony, he's listening to the music, but his autonomy is that he's trustable, right, in discerning, right, what his unique self-responsibility is. That's enormous joy in that. And here's the thing, pleasure. We've taken pleasure out of the game. We've taken desire out of the game. We've made desire an enemy. So if you're filled with desire to do that, that must be problematic. You're a George Washington example, when it's actually precisely the opposite. The only thing you should be doing is that which you're filled with overflowing, pulsating, throbbing, tumescent desire to do. If you're not filled with that, don't do it. Now, clarify your desire. Make sure it's not a surface desire. Make sure it's not pseudo-eros. Make sure it's eros. It's the eros of unique self, because unique self is the ultimate eros. And that's a big sentence. Unique self is the ultimate eros. When you're in your unique self, you're in eros. Unique self is a conduit for Eros. Unique self is not, remember we said uniqueness is not separateness, which is the currency of alienation. Unique self is the currency of connection. What does it connect you to? And the best image is if you have a cord, the end of the cord, you have a plug. So the cord is the sameness that we all participate in. Everyone's got the same cord. At the plug's absolutely unique. So the plug is your unique self. The plug plugs into the portal of cosmos and literally animates you with Eros.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're not in your unique self, it means you're not plugged in, right? You're actually out of Eros. When you're out of Eros, you're not trustable.
Yeah, because then, and I definitely want to talk about this, then it leads you down this path of pseudo-eros because your desire turns into the shadow. And then you get all of this self-righteous behavior. I just recently, and this is going to be an obscure reference unless people are really familiar with Game of Thrones, but you might remember it. There's a scene with the Septa Unella, who is this kind of very harsh, and she was in charge of like keeping the prisons for Lady Marjorie and Cersei and Loras, and she would just, throw the food on the ground and tell them to repent and like read scripture at them and very like stern. Finally, Cersei turns the tables on her and tries to get her to admit that she wasn't doing this out of some sense of piety, that she liked it.
Right.
She liked it. She thinks that she's the most pious nun in this new, reclamation of the faith and the faith militant. And she's like, no, you fucking liked it. And I know you liked it because she's a villain, Cersei. Right. And Cersei knows the pleasure of being a villain.
Right.
She's not split off from it. She's just chosen a very dark path.
Right.
But she's actually aware that she desires the hurtful, hateful things that she's doing. And then so she can see the shadow of the Septa.
She can see the pleasure.
She can see the pleasure and see the villainy in that. And then in a way, obviously, Cersei has some deep fucking issues that make her go down the dark path, but at least she's aware that she's doing it because it feels good. And so it's like somehow her darkness is in the light and she's still choosing it. That's a whole different pathology. But she's able to recognize the darkness that's in the shadow that's in another person.
This is a big fucking deal, right? We brought pleasure to the table, right? And which is, we got to do a whole conversation on pleasure. But let's just sit back and spend a word on it. Your unique self is crazy pleasurable because, and we'll follow it carefully, because your unique self is your Eros. Eros is the experience of radical aliveness, desiring ever deeper contact and ever greater wholeness. That experience is pleasurable. In other words, pain is when things fragment inappropriately. They dissociate. They're ripped apart. The interior experience of Eros is pleasure, right? So the movement of Eros is the movement of pleasure. That's why healing is the movement to wholeness, which is the movement of Eros, right? So all movements of Eros are healing in that they're wholing and they're pleasurable, right? Pain, fragmentation, shit's ripped apart. So if your unique self is the embodiment of your Eros, that means that you get enormous pleasure from being in your unique self, even when you're in fucking pain, right? And so if I'm moving between manuscripts and trying to write the Great Library, and my head is splitting open, and I barely have, I can barely kind of keep my head up, but I've got like 3 more hours to work, and it's midnight, and I'm like, fuck me, why am I doing this? But there's no one in the world that's making me do it. No one. There's no one. No one would say anything if I stopped doing it at that moment. But I am in, and I'm actually in pain at that moment. I'm filled with pleasure. Right? That's because I'm doing the right thing, and I'm glad I'm doing this. And although I'm gonna, complain, and Christina's gonna say to me like, "You chose to do that. Why are you complaining?" That's a good point, right? Fair. Okay, you win that one, right? But I'm in pleasure because I'm in the pleasure of my unique self, right? And people are suspicious of people who are in their pleasure when they're not.
Yeah.
So pleasure is somehow demonized when pleasure actually is a huge sentence. Pleasure is the source of all ethics. We think pleasure is the opposite of ethics. Actually, we've made this split in Western culture between hedonism, and daemon. And you invoked daemon, I think it was yesterday. Daemon's a part of the image of unique self. I'm being called. Actually, hedon and daemon are completely one with each other. The deeper I'm in my daemon, the more pleasure I have. And so pleasure actually is a reliable, trustable guide to ethics. Now, you have to clarify what's your pleasure. So every pleasure in a different conversation, different book in the Great Library is 6 levels of pleasure and 10 voices of pleasure and 23 principles of pleasures. We're not doing that now, but for minimally we can say is that every pleasure has a counterfeit. right? So you got to watch. Are you in the pleasure or in the counterfeit? So let's say you got the pleasure of standing for a cause. That's a pleasure. It's different than the pleasure of ice cream, right? That's what we call level 3 pleasure. Pleasure of standing for a cause. Counterfeit, pseudo cause, bad cause. You're wrapping yourself in a suicide bomb, and you're going to blow up a bus because you're standing for the cause of a particular form of tragic jihad, right? So every pleasure has a counterfeit, and you have to clarify and discern between, right? What's the actual pleasure? What's not the pleasure? That's a big deal, not our conversation. But for now, we can at least say that literally the source of all ethics is pleasure. If you actually follow your pleasure, your authentic pleasure, you will be the most ethical person you can possibly imagine. That's shocking. And here's the thing. Evolution evolves because it feels good. And I want to get that to, I'm not saying that that's not a clever sentence, right? It's not a slogan sentence. That is 20 years of research. And I'll summarize it in a few words. Evolution evolves because it feels good, right? There's what one scientist called, right, a kind of quantum hedonism, right? Kathy Kaufman's phrase, right? A kind of quantum hedonism that lives all the way down, right? It's such a great realization, right? Evolution evolves because it feels good. And because goodness is actually inextricable from pleasure. So you might say, no, what do you mean? In order to be good, you got to give up your pleasures. That's fucked. You got to give up your pseudo pleasures. Let's make this kind of crazy extreme for a second.
Yeah.
Even dying for a cause is a great pleasure, right? Right. In other words, when you lay it down, even when you give up your life, right? And to live in a world where you don't have anything you give up your life for is the most deadening experience you can possibly have. And when you get right, it's like shocking. Right? To live in a world when there's nothing you would die for. Now, you shouldn't go die for it. You should live for it. You should figure out what you want to die for and then go live for it. But to live in a world where there's nothing you're willing to give your life up for is the most deadening possible experience a person can have. Wow.
Yeah. And I think here's one of the reasons why it gets confusing is the example I gave, like Circe taking pleasure in the torturing of people, in the breaking down of another person's position, in her rise to power. And the important distinction you're making is those are, even though they look and feel like pleasure, it's actually a counterfeit pleasure. It may actually feel an illicit pleasure.
It's actually a counterfeit.
Because you're missing one aspect of your development of your unique self, which is the actual experience of true self, your connection to the field, to recognize that person that you're torturing, hurting, killing is actually you living a different life. And so you have to be in this distorted delusion to actually get pleasure from it. So you're not in the truth.
You're batting too high today for me to keep up. Okay, so let's play for a second. Okay, so what's the pleasure? What's the pleasure that Circe's experiencing? It's the pleasure of power, right? It's the pleasure of impact, right? That actually my being impacts another being, and I actually sense that I'm causing them pain. So I experience the pleasure of power. Now that comes from, however, that's the paradox. And this, again, we're going to grow corn. It comes from actually impotence, not potency. Because if I actually experience the genuine experience of my unique self, I actually have an experience of radical power at every second. Because I know I can live and be in my unique self. Right? If I don't have an experience of unique self, I don't have experience that actually reality is moving through me and I've got a unique gift of radical aliveness to give that no one that ever was, is, or will be can give other than me, that love desire is moving through me, then I feel impotent. There's a sense of radical emptiness. And the more powerful I am, Circe is a powerful figure, the more powerful I am, the more I'm going to be desperate to experience my impact and power. So actually, when I'm powerless, because genuine power comes only from unique self. My power is always unique. My power, the Eros of my power, is my plug at the end of that cord that plugs into the wall and gives me the unique currency of connection, the unique energies that's mine. I'm not just plugging into reality and getting energy. I'm getting Aubrey's energy. It's why I can't steal your energy. Right? In other words, when someone tries to parasite off your energy, you're like, whoa, that's my energy. Right? And there's Aubrey energy. That's different than Marc energy. We can exchange, But ultimately, I've got to be in devotion, right? So it's your quality of energy. So when you're impotent, when you don't have power, can I tell you, brother, now, because you said something about ego we got to get back to, but it was a 10-second story.
Sure.
I mean, God, I haven't thought about this in a long time. In 2006 was a hard moment in my life. It's kind of a big tragedy time. And I'd experienced a very big tragedy, and I was in Salt Lake City. And I was staying at my dear friend, Kristen Ulmer's, she's a great skier, kind of way in the boondocks there. And I had to get to town. And I'd gone through probably the most, painful 2 weeks of my life. And I had to get to town for a critical meeting that I didn't want to go to, but I needed to kind of engage it. And by the way, good news is, thank God, there was a happy end, to this story, right, to this tragedy, right? I mean, to the extent that tragedies ever have happy ends, but it was tragic, but it worked out okay, and I'm so grateful for that. So, and I hadn't slept for 2 weeks, an hour, literally an hour a night, no hyperbole. I mean, I was just gone, and so And Kristen says, there's a bus. She had to go, she was skiing that day. It was near Snowbird. She said, there's a bus that will take you into town. That bus in Utah, from where we were by Snowbird Mountain to get to the center of Salt Lake City, came every 5 days, right? So I'm sitting there waiting for the fucking bus. I'm going to be late for the meeting. I haven't slept. I have no energy. And I'm like, I'm done. I'm just done, right? And it was an experience a betrayal that I was working with. Then this car pulls up. And says, hey, you want to ride? And I said, well, probably an axe murder, but what the fuck? You know what I mean?
I don't got a lot to lose at this point. Fuck it.
I'm just taking the ride.
Yeah.
So I get in the car, and this Mormon woman, and she says, I had this vision this morning that I was supposed to pick up this man, right? He needed a ride, and it was very important that I pick him up. So I came this route, and there you were. I'm like, okay, right? So, so I said, well, who are you? And she starts telling me her story, and it was a tragic story. I can see myself in the car now. I can see the car where we're driving. I can hear her voice talking about her son, and her son betrayed her, and it was a drug story, and a husband who left, and a father, and there I was listening to her. And the truth is, my heart just opened, and we drove for an hour, and I was crying. I'm just listening to her story, and I'm just kind of sharing with her back, and we're talking, and I completely forgot about everything going on. We were just there in the car, and I get out of the car, and she's Mormon, and Mormon's about the tabernacle and the reenactment of the Israelite covenant and about the temple, about the priest. So she looks at me and she says, who are you? Are you the high priest? No one's ever talked to me like that. And I got out of the car, and tears streaming down my face. And it was at a moment where I didn't know whether I'd be able to respond to what was going on appropriately. And I didn't know where my life was going to go in the next year. And I said, even if it all goes bad, I can always listen to someone telling their story. And that's my unique self. I can do that. And I can give a person a sense that they're kind of radically beautiful and gorgeous. So no matter what happens, I'm good, right? And from that moment on, it shifted then. And I found myself again, and everything else kind of moved. But I found my power again. Now, I had no idea whether I could, in this world at that moment, navigate it, right? But I was now, power was moving through me. That's power. That's what power is. That's real.
Yeah, and to just finish this analogy
Please.
with Cersei, I think they did a good job on the show. Actually, if you trace back all of the layers of impotence that she felt, first of all, her father, Tywin Lannister, monster of a man, never allowed her to express the natural power that was moving through her. It was always her brother, Jaime, and it was always Tywin holding on to the massive amount of power, never actually giving the children any real meaningful power, always staying in this super dominant position. Then she has to marry Robert Baratheon, doesn't want to marry him. He's an animal, kind of a very vital, animalistic animal, but he's a fucking animal. And then she's in a romantic relationship with her brother, Jaime.
And when that happens.
And yeah, that's tough. And then she's hiding that, and that's riddled in her own shame, which is also a sense of impotence that she can't share her love there. And it's really actually a story of deep love. That's one of the redeeming kind of threads is this is really fucked up. This is incest. However, it's actually a meaningful love story between the two of them. So there's levels on levels on levels that have just impacted this impotence. And then that comes out in the monstrosity of her claim for power over others. and the proof of that power being the pain that she's actually inflicting. And so you
Right.
see that, and then you can contrast that. And I want to contrast that with another character who happened to be season 3's my friend Ed Skrein. He was Dario Naharis, who is Queen Daenerys's boyfriend.
Mm-hmm.
And he is fully in his fuck, like fully in his fuck. And Ed plays that character so great. I was heartbroken when they switched characters season 4 on, because he just played it so well. And Daenerys is trying to be like, and he's the head of this group of mercenaries, and he does this very honoring thing for her, kills the other mercenary, says like, I'm yours. And she's like, what's your deal? Like, explain to me why are you doing this?
Right.
Like trying to figure out something.
Right.
And he goes, I'm a very simple man. I'm paraphrasing. He goes, I'm a very simple man to understand. There's 2 things that I live for. One is to fuck a woman who wants to fuck me.
Right.
And he proves that actually, because he never actually wants to be with any of the whores that are around town. That all of his other, it's contrasted with all of his other mercenaries. They're like, why don't you want to be with this whore? He's like, no, not for me. And so he explains it then. No, I only want to fuck a woman who wants to fuck me. That's number 1. Number 2,
Amen.
I want to kill the man who wants to kill me. And that's like his simple credo, right? And it's this very interesting thing where he's actually intensely good, an intensely good character in the film. And obviously there's a field of context where killing is part of the whole game of the field.
We're not applying it to the contemporary situation.
Right, exactly. But he's an intensely good character in the show, which the show is riddled with very complex characters, but he's actually intensely good. And because he's not impotent in any stretch of the imagination, and he's fully in his fuck, and it actually allows him to be one of the most ethical characters in the whole show.
So that's gorgeous, right? So, I mean, there are 4 things you said. We're not going to pick up all of them, but let's just get the last one. And it enables him to be one of the most ethical characters in the show. So Eros and ethics are not oppositions.
Yeah.
That's gorgeous, right? So we think the erotic and the ethical, they're complete oppositions. They're not, right? In other words, Eros, and let's now link unique self and Eros, and unique self is one of the places where Eros comes fully alive. So when I'm in my Eros, I'm in my unique self, then I become profoundly ethical. I become noble.
Mm.
And this character has a sense of nobility about him, right? And he's powerful because you actually own your fuck, and fuck, right? The word fuck, which is a whole conversation. And as you know, I was privileged to write a kind of 20,000 word essay on the word fuck. That's a big and important word, and how that word works, different conversation. We'll get to that, I hope, one day. But for now,
I have to remember that I have the tendency of using that word, having like integrated, read the essay and then used it colloquially in the house, and then I say it, and people are like, "What is he saying?
What's he saying, man?"
It's a good reminder. So thank you for that.
We have to get back to that.
Yeah,
we
for
have
sure.
to get back to it. We've never gotten to it, but it's on the agenda. But I mean, let's just be in this for a second. It's such a fucking big deal.
Yeah.
Right. And it's fucking awesome because fuck actually is an amplifier. It's a fucking big deal.
Yeah.
Right. It's like, it's not ordinary. You have like an ordinary asshole and a fucking asshole.
Yeah,
so that's one of the dimensions of fuck is it amplifies things. It intensifies things. So if I'm in my unique self, which is my Eros, then ethics flow from my fullness. If I'm not in my unique self, meaning I'm de-eroticized, I'm split off from Eros, then I'm living in a void, then I need pseudo-Eros to cover it over. It's a very big deal. Now, when I'm in my Eros, in my unique self, I can actually experience the goodness of power. And we need to reclaim power as a virtue. We've made being powerless a virtue, which is part of the victim culture. You know, Sykes wrote a great book called A Nation of Victims. There was a great essay called A Culture of Victimhood, right? The victim, right, derives their power from being powerless. So therefore, the victim can never give up their position. The victim's always innocent, but the price of innocence is impotence, right? Right? The victim's always innocent, but the price of innocence is impotence, and the victim can never be potent, because potent would be I'm not impotent, means I'm not powerless, but my power comes from being powerless. So it's this strange trap of victimhood, right, which you got to move beyond. I've got to actually step into my power, and my power is good. We have to claim the goodness of power. And not only that kind of liberal distinction, which is power for is good, but power over is bad, not true. right? There's power 4 that's sacred, light, and there's power 4 that's actually completely damaging. The mother who smothers, S/mother, the mother who smothers her child and doesn't allow her child to speak is tragic, right? In other words, right, the government, the fascist government that as a collective is the mother who smothers the people, right? The top-down closed society that functions as a mother, right? So in other words, power 4, China, the surveillance state of China is all about power 4. There's actually this new social contract in China, give up your kind of ordinary privacy, and we will, through machine intelligence, figure out the kind of society you want and provide it for you. And MIT Technological Review, just this morning in the bathroom early, too much information, too much of an image, but I'm sitting there reading MIT Technological Review about this social contract in China, right? China's the mother, give up, we'll control everything, power 4, for your sake. That's the contract, no freedom, okay? So power 4 can be completely fucked, right? And completely fascist and totalitarian. And power over can be beautiful. Power over can be abusive, but we've literally identified the word power with abuse. If a person's powerful, there were power relations there. There was power at play. And it's just a tragedy, even in issues like sexual harassment, right? Okay, you've got a 30-year-old student and you've got a, 45-year-old professor. Let's say he's a professional. Let's even say, right, that, they had this great, relationship for 2 years, and then she gets mad. And she accuses him of sexual harassment. And everyone says it was sexual harassment when actually it wasn't. And David Mamet, wrote a play about this called Oleana, about how this tragedy, exactly about this story. But everyone says there were power relations. Well, of course there were. There's always power relations between people. And the teacher had power, for sure. And she had power. Fact is, she just destroyed his career. Without there being a proper investigation, that's a fair amount of power. He can't do that to her. So, of course, there's always power at play between people.
Mm-hmm.
And, of course, inappropriate power relations, quid pro quo sexual harassment is completely wrong. Or a guru who says, all my students have to be obedient to me. Well, that guru can't sleep with their students because he's demanding obedience or she's demanding obedience. There's no autonomy, right? But in other words, power relations are always at play. There's always power over in different ways. We all have power over each other. There's actually a great joy to power over, right? Power over means I'm taking responsibility, right? I'm grateful for the people who have power over me. I have deep gratitude. And I also realize I have power over people, and I hold that responsibly and beautifully. And there's a reason why we call the divine in every great tradition the infinity of power. So all this stuff is politically incorrect. You're not allowed to talk to power. We've interrogated power as being identical with abuse. It's not.
Yeah, which is a real mind fuck because yes, we all know
There's that word
that
again.
there is a disgusting nature to what power has done. We've seen our whole history books and even our lives filled with times where somebody
Abusers of power.
had power over us
Yeah.
and used it in an abusive way, and we feel the contempt and rage for that, and so we see that. But then when we feel our own power and associate power with only those truly actually disgusting abuses of power, then we start to look at our own power with a sense of disgust. And then we create this kind of double bind, this thing that we know, that we desire, and actually we know, anthro-ontologically, again, to use that word, we know it's good. We know
Right.
this feeling is good, but actually all of our associations and all of the cultural associations tell us that it's bad. Then we get very, very confused
Gorgeous.
and split off.
Sweetheart, that's gorgeous, right? And we begin to see how we're creating this field together, right? You have an anthro-ontological, right? And that's the word that we use here, meaning I have an interior knowing of value that lives within me that I can identify and trust. Anthro, human being, ontology, for real. So I've got this anthro-ontological experience that power actually has dignity. And then I'm told that power is only its abusive side. We identify power with its abusive side, and you point out correctly, power misused is horrific. It's a violation of all that we hold dear. Power misused can be evil. That's absolutely correct. However, that's not the nature of power. It's the misuse of power.
Yep.
Right? I mean, that's critically important. And Machiavelli got it wrong when he said power corrupts. Right? That's the statement that went into culture. Power corrupts. right? That
it was somebody else. It was power corrupts and
absolute power corrupts absolutely.
Absolutely. Who was that else? It was some like Lord Acton or something. Wasn't it Acton?
Was it Lord Acton or Machiavelli? We'll have to check that out.
And then, check it out, Christian.
Lord Acton or Machiavelli? Could totally have been Lord Acton. I'm not wagering on that. Right? Right. Lord Acton is yes.
Yes.
You should have bet on it.
That's like the one time I've ever
you got it, man.
had something where I actually had a
nicely
quote
done.
source.
You should put it down on that. Laid it down.
That's
right?
right. I'm writing it down.
I'm writing it down. Power gorgeous. But power corrupts. Absolute power corrupts. Absolutely not true. Right? No, power doesn't corrupt. Power actually can ennoble. Power calls us to who we are, and power is our nature. I have a unique quality of power that no one that ever was, is, or will be can deploy in reality other than me. And if God, again, the God you don't believe in doesn't exist, not the caricatured God, but God as the field of the love intelligence and love beauty and love power, right? If God lives in you as you, right, that means that the only place that infinity of power, which is divine, can live is in your finitude. And you get the gorgeousness of that sentence. The only place where that infinity of power, of divine power, can live is in your unique finitude. Your unique finitude participates in infinity. You deploy that divine power. So if you decide to wimp out and to go powerless, right, you're basically slapping the goddess in the face. She's demanding that you deploy your power there. Yes, Beirur. That's a word now people are familiar with. Clarify your motivation.
Yeah.
Find, right, the deep heart of what's driving you. But I'll give you a great example. Barack Obama. So I was talking to Barack this morning. We have got a little morning chat.
Morning tea?
Yeah, morning tea shit. You know what I mean? Me, him, Michelle, KK.
Yeah.
Right? And, so I asked Barack, man, why'd you run for office? I wanted to serve people. Okay, I got it. Okay, man, but it's just us here. Why'd you run for office? Why'd you run for office, man? Well, he says, cause fuck, it's so much pleasure. Well, what's the nature of that pleasure? It's the pleasure of power. Barack Obama ran for office because of the intense pleasure of power, which he wanted to deploy, right? One hopes, and I trust that that's very likely true, for the sake of good, for the sake of truth, for the sake of beauty. But if there just would have been an abstract calculus, and we got to understand the nature of the motivational architecture, right, of the inherent cosmos that lives in us, if there just would have been, you'll become president, and you'll be able to click off a few boxes that do good, but there will not be an experience of the pleasure of your unique power, there's no way he would have subjected himself, his family, right, his entire world to 20-hour grueling days, right, intense pain, right, intense danger, right? What actually allured him, he was allured to run for president. It moved in his body, it throbbed, and it should.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's and the acknowledgement of which is what makes you trustable.
And the acknowledgement of which is exactly what makes you trustable.
An interesting just a story to share is in the second time I sat with Maestro Orlando Chuandama, the dragon of the jungle, El Dragón de la Selva. He was in the deep Quechua lineage, did a documentary about him. But I sit with him, and dragon is his power animal. And appropriately, in the second time I drank with him, I was visited by this giant dragon made of smoke, giant gray dragon made of smoke, filled up the sky like I was looking at the top of a stadium, like that big. And he's just looking down at me and says, "You want power?" And I go, whoa, well, I certainly can't lie to this dragon here, but that's a very confronting
Lying
question.
to dragons is bad.
Yeah, for sure.
Bad.
So I was like, yes. And I felt like I was brave, but it's the truth. I do. I want power. And the dragon goes, "Why?" And then I was like, oh man, he's really pressing here. All right. To help people. And I actually believed that answer, and it was true. But then the dragon goes, "Are you sure?" And actually went through, because that answer was true but incomplete, true but partial. My answer that I gave to the dragon, which was, I want to help people. Yes, true, but partial. And it showed me all of these instances in my life where I've taken great joy in my power, in whether that was on the basketball court or whether that was in another situation where I got to feel the fuck again, feel the fuck of being a powerful being, and I never misused it. So it wasn't a misuse of power, but it was also, the dragon was showing me the pleasure of my own power and saying like, yes, you do want to help people. However, you fucking enjoy it and don't forget it. And then as soon as
And
I
own
acknowledge
it and
that
be
and
trustable
own
in it.
I jumped on the dragon's back and we cruised through the cosmos in this beautiful ride. And it was one of the
I
most
love it.
profound and brief 2 minutes in its entirety. You know, obviously time is strange when you're in this kind of
Right,
quantum vision
right.
state
And riding a dragon.
and riding a dragon.
Just
But it was
saying.
this like beautiful moment that I've never forgot. And at that point, any part of my pleasure of power that was split off was reconciled in a really like beautiful way. And that made me a lot more trustable.
Trustable, and it made you more good, and it made you more true, and it made you more beautiful, right? And that's the point of unique self. Unique self demands that you actually step into your power. And part of our power is, right, to ensure that every human being has power,
Yep.
right? In other words, you know, what unique self says is that every human being deserves to experience the unique nature of their own power. And to violate a person's power, right? To oppress the powerless, right? To abuse the powerless is therefore the ultimate violation,
Mm-hmm.
right? But when I'm in my power, right, is power for. My power recognizes the dimension of power over I have, right? And I allow my power to guide me, but again, only if I clarify it again and again and again. But that clarification's a joy. I'm
Yeah.
always clarifying it, right? What's moving me? And this is where the ego thing is important. So ego, right? So you mentioned ego, which is such a big deal because ego gets demonized. And you could define unique self as higher individuation beyond ego.
Mm.
That's a really good, right? Right? The unique self is your higher individuation beyond ego, but not that leaves ego behind, because ego actually prefigures unique self. Ego is an illusion to unique self. Ego is just like, and here's a good example, just like in metaphysics, the idea that you as this personality is immortal, is going to live forever, which is not true. You're not going to live forever as this personality. But that false claim is pointing to something that's true, which is there is continuity of consciousness and there is some unique dimension of you that actually lives forever, not your particular personality, separate self embodiment. What lives forever is the pattern of your unique self, or the essential thread of your story. But that false sense of this is going to be immortal, there's always going to be Marc in this way or Aubrey in this way, is pointing to a deeper truth. So the ego prefigures unique self. It points to unique self. And the ego is important because it's telling something that's true. It says, I matter. I'm important, right? And I'm thinking about myself. And I'm thinking about myself all the time, right? And so enlightenment teachers tell you, or psychologists tell you, each in their own way, well, the reason you're thinking about yourself all the time is because you're fucked, right? You're a narcissist, right? You can't, you're not empathetic, you're a little sociopathic, right? But actually, and those might be true for some people, but actually most people, for an enormous amount of time, I'm going to say most of the time, for an enormous amount of time, people think about themselves. That's actually true. That is what human beings do. They spend an enormous amount of time thinking about themselves, but not because they're narcissistic, not because they're fucked up, but because they're eavesdropping on the divine conversation. And it's when I'm thinking about myself, and this is a pointing out instruction, I'm eavesdropping on reality thinking about me. It's very beautiful. And I'm not thinking about myself all the time because I'm somehow flawed. And again, that violates my anthropological sense of my own goodness when my teacher tells me you shouldn't be thinking about yourself. Now, you want to be thinking a lot about other people, and you want to be feeling people a lot, and you want to be in service. You want to be fit for service, right? You want to be in devotion, but you're also thinking about, well, am I devoted in the right way? Am I showing up in the right way? Am I able to kind of, be right? That hurt, I got to work with that hurt. You're thinking about yourself because you matter.
Mm-hmm.
And so ego prefigures the experience that you matter, and you never want to evolve beyond ego. And you can't trust people who claim that they evolved beyond ego.
Yeah, the most toxically selfish individuals, I wouldn't say maybe the most, but one characteristic of some what I would call toxically selfish or egotistical individuals is their belief that being egotistical or selfish is shameful or bad. So actually their selfishness and their egotism is in the shadow. It's split off from what they'll accept from themselves. So they actually don't see how unbelievably selfish they are because they won't allow themselves to see any degree of selfishness.
You
that's
just
living in them.
described, you just beautifully described, right, the ideology of narcissism. And a narcissist is disgusted with themselves, right? And since they're disgusted with themselves, but they split off that disgust, they can't hold that self-referential at all, as you exactly described. They split it off, but self-disgust actually creates narcissism. Split off self-disgust is the ideology of a narcissist.
Mm.
And a narcissist means I'm actually really, I've got a social demeanor, right, of empathy, but really it's all about me.
Mm.
Right? But because I can't own, right, that healthy egoic sense that can and should live in me. And again, I had a friend who we're still in touch. We lost touch for a while, and I think he's a good man. He went through a hard time, and he was and is a significant public teacher. And at a certain point, he was one of the most significant public teachers, kind of, and I'd say the kind of North American evolutionary scene, if you will. And his basic teaching was evolution beyond ego, evolve beyond ego. That is the most damaging teaching you can possibly teach someone, because no one ever evolves beyond ego.
Mm-hmm.
And if you claim to have evolved beyond ego, you're not trustworthy, because you can't call the person out on anything because I've evolved beyond ego. You never evolve beyond ego. You evolve beyond your exclusive identification with ego.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not identified with my ego. Okay, that's my ego at play. And I also want to listen to my ego, because my ego is reaching for something. It's reaching for unique self. And so the ego prefigures something. I mean, here's a good example. That Course of Miracles, which is a very important text in a lot of ways. The Course of Miracles has something to offer, and it's also complex. So the Course of Miracles has a whole thing about not being special. Don't think you're special. Well, that's a mistake. Your ego shouldn't hijack the experience of specialness, because that's aggressive. That's like, I'm special.
And you're not.
And you're not. And you can do it in that energy, right? Hey, I'm special. I know what you're doing. Stuck doing this podcast here in wherever the fuck Austin, but I'm special. I live in Vermont in a Victorian house with a dog, right? I mean, right? And so there's an ugly energy to it. It's like, it's aggressive. It's like, right? But there's also like, I am so special and you are so special. And it's such a special moment that our intimacy's got to meet in the world. That's trustable, right? So actually, you are special, but your ego hijacks the specialness of your unique self.
Yeah.
So that split, that distinction, the ego always betrays. The unique self is loyal, right? The ego is always greedy. The unique self has the capacity to be satisfied. The ego is always a victim. The unique self is a player at the table, right? The ego always says, I want more. The unique self says, yeah, I've got enough, right? And you can go through, it's a long list. The response of the ego is very different than the response of the unique self.
Mm-hmm.
But the ego is pointing towards the unique self. So we need to reclaim and put the ego back on the table. And by the way, BTW, the best developmental studies we have that have been done, Suzanne Cook-Reuter, right, and a bunch of other, right, kind of good writers have pointed out that in developmental psychographs, the ego always exists at the highest levels of development, both spiritual and psychological, but the ego gets more subtle, right? It gets more harder to detect. It appears more noble, and it should. The ego should always be in conversation with the ego. You cannot trust a person, right, who's dissociated from their ego or thinks they've evolved beyond their ego. And a person who actually is stuck in their ego, right, but knows they are, it's trustable. We can have a conversation. So never evolve beyond ego. That's our spiritual advice, right? Evolve beyond identification with the ego, but let the ego whisper in your ear, because it's pointing you somewhere, which is towards unique self, like that.
Yep. And I think one of the things that we've referenced here is when we have these incomplete, incorrect, true but partial stories
Right.
that are, it actually leaves a lot of space for shadow, that thing that we do not see, and that
Yeah.
actually guides us from the murky depths of our psyche. And it's a place that I've been, allured to go in this conversation to actually talk about. And actually, because of the unique beliefs and the unique way that we have things, we all have a unique shadow, some aspect of ourselves that we don't see. And so you have a really kind of also advanced understanding of this concept, and also some other aspects that actually even go deeper into the lineage. So let's dive in there now, and then just
Totally.
leaving a breadcrumb, because there's some really exciting stuff to go about taking your unique risk.
Wow, yeah.
As
Unique
well.
risk is huge.
So we got to get to that. But let's dive into the shadow aspect.
Yeah, so
'cause
let's dive
we've been
into
referencing
let's
it.
dive into shadow aspect. But again, you're fucking us up today because you're batting so high. So right, and because you just said something in passing, which is really important. I just want to throw it back on the table, which is the reason we need a new story of value, right, based on first principles and first values, right, to actually respond to the meta crisis and to create this new human and new humanity, right? We need that because that which organizes a complex system and makes it coherent is the simple principles that get iterated again and again. But what you pointed out and added to that is you got to get those simple principles right. Right. In other words, when you're creating a foundational structure, when you're telling a story of value, you can't be casual. You got to be rigorous. And so there's not a word that we've spoken today, right? And I say this kind of trembling before God, that I haven't spent 30, 40 years thinking about carefully, and then having people challenge, and then working with it with students and working with it clinically, and then challenging myself again. So when we get to a simple formulation today, right, it's a second simplicity, and that it's just out of integrity, right, to put models into the world that are kind of sloppy, because a sloppy model causes suffering, right? And a sloppy model and a model that's kind of true but partial but claims to be whole actually destroys the very structure of society, right? So we need a story of self that's accurate. We need a story of relationship. We need a story of value. So these are not meta theoretical conversations. That phrase that we invoked earlier, it grows corn, right? So getting it right, getting it precise. So like this distinction between ego and unique self, that's not some stupid casual conversation. It's everything, right? In other words, if you put a major teaching into the center of Western culture, which is what's happened in the intelligentsia, evolved beyond ego, then you violate your own inner sense of ego, and you feel fundamental shame, right, about who you actually are, and then you become split off from your own goodness. That's where shadow emerges. That's always how it happens. So it's a great segue into shadow. I just really appreciated you saying it. So yay. It's the last nice thing I'm going to say today. So just relax. Okay? Don't get excited. Okay? Right. So shadow. Shadow is a very, very big deal. Shadow is a very big deal. And in the Unique Self book, there's 100 pages, right, on shadow. And with Claire Molinaire, who's the head of our Unique Self Institute, we're going to actually put out an actual book on shadow, on unique shadow. It's crazy important. So here's the 10 seconds of it, right? I know it's not going to be, 12 seconds, okay? A dude named Robert Bly. He's a good dude, right? Invoked a lot of drumming circles, put a lot of great poetry books out, and made a real contribution, and fucked this next one up. So we mean that, affectionately, right? Wrote a book called A Little Book on Shadow. That book is widely quoted, throughout. I mean, just last night at your house, we were talking a little bit about shadow, and someone said, yeah, I read that book. And someone, yeah, I read that book. So it's this book where Robert Bly tries to explain what shadow is. And there's another book which became very popular in human potential circles, a book with a black cover, appropriate, I guess, for a shadow book, edited by Connie Zweig, put out by Jeremy Tarcher, called Meeting the Shadow, about 60 essays. And they all share the same common and false assumption, which basically kills the conversation, right? And again, lots of good in those essays, obviously, but they got something fundamentally wrong, which we have to correct, which is they identify shadow with what I would call shadow qualities, okay? So the shadow is, Robert Bly says, I wanted to kill my brother and just destroy him, but I couldn't say that out loud, so I put it in the bag. That was my shadow in the bag, my desire to kill my brother. And he goes through, rage and jealousy and pettiness and, all the vices, right? We put all that stuff in the bag. And then Bly says, but in order to be whole, you got to integrate your shadow. So The simple question is, well, why? You want to integrate your desire to kill your brother? Maybe you shouldn't. Maybe you just shouldn't kill your brother, right? You know what I mean? You want to integrate your kind of desire to murder your dog? Well, maybe don't murder your dog. Work it out, right? So, of course, what he means is, and it's not entirely wrong. It's true, but partial. Well, if you don't own those dark desires, right, they're gonna take the wheel, right, of your vehicle, right, because you've split them off. And okay, that's fair enough. That's good. I mean, that's legitimate. It's a legitimate answer, but doesn't get it. Right? I mean, there's this movement towards owning your shadow that's very powerful, right? Integrate the shadow, really, just so it doesn't split off and doesn't steal the wheel of your life. I mean, valid, something bigger. We have the sense that there's a larger wholeness that happens, right? When I integrate the split off shadow. So why? So the answer is because my shadow, and again, I'm saying this in the level of second simplicity, okay? My shadow is not my shadow qualities. My shadow is the light of my unique self, if you will. You know, I'll do it with the sacred text. There's a lot of ways to do this, but just say, Ner Elohim nishmat Adam, a beautiful lineage text. The candle of the divine is the person of the human, the person of man, the soul of man. Meaning, I'm light. I'm a unique, singular frequency of light. That singular frequency of light is my Aubreyness. That's the singular frequency of my light. Now, let's say that Aubrey takes a big part of his singular frequency of light. He's not willing to live it. Okay, let's say he's supposed to stand for this or that. He's supposed to do this, to express this, to create this, but he's not willing to do it because, for whatever the set of reasons is, so he splits that off, and it's now in darkness. That's shadow. Shadow is your unlived story. Shadow is your unlived unique self, or shadow is the distortion of your unique self. If I can use an earlier language, which I used in a book way back when I was, a kid, right? Soul print. Well, let's call it soul print for it. It's a nice word to use, right? I later turned to the word unique self for too long of an academic conversation why that happened. But your unlived soul print, your distorted soul print, that's your shadow. Okay, that's a big deal. Right? So if you take a piece of who you actually are and you split it off and you put it in darkness, whoa, that's shadow. Now then, that shadow is your actual unlived self, and it wants to be lived. It wants to attract your attention. It wants you to come live me. So what it does is it acts out. Those are shadow qualities, right? In other words, you act out in shadow qualities. And here's just an image. I just remember this when I was first teaching this. I was in Germany with my friend Diane, and we were teaching this notion of that there's no such thing as shadow. There's only unique shadow. Shadow doesn't exist. Shadow is generally used as a generic term. It's not generic. Shadow is just like there's a unique obligation, there's a unique responsibility, there's a unique joy. There's actually unique shadow. So I was giving a seminar in Germany, and there was one guy in the room who was just fantastic, just present and alive. And, that person in the room that everyone was just kind of in resonance with, and just an incredibly lovely man, right? And so I'm doing the unique shadow thing, and he's saying I don't get this. This is ridiculous, right? And I said, well, okay, what's your unique shadow? He said, I said, up to you. You can tell me privately. He said, well, I'll tell you. Okay. And his voice gets a little hard, and he says, I go to clubs, I'm gay, and I do tons of meth and fisting. And I'm doing it all the time, and that's my unique shadow. I said, well, first, why is that shadowy? So, so the room kind of laughed. Tell me where the problem was. So he said, well, because I'm doing it too much. I don't want to be doing it that much. I'm doing it all the time. It's out of control. I said, okay, well, that's fair. That's fair. I said, well, just tell me about what you do. Right? He says, well, I'm a therapist. I said, great, you're a therapist. Okay, well, how does your clientele work? I'm very nice to them, and, people love being with me, and I hold people really well. I said, wow, that's great. Well, what do you do when someone has a really significant thing they're fucking up? Do you tell them? He said, well, I think you don't want to be that kind of confrontational in that kind of way. So what you got to do is you really got to hold the person. I said, oh, okay. So when someone has a real fuck up and you're their therapist, you kind of hold them, but you don't really confront them. You don't go all the way in. So he said, you got to be careful to go all the way in. It's really, I said, oh, really? You got to be careful to go all the way in, right? So you're a therapist. Your life's dedicated to therapy. This is your unique self, and you're responsible for your people, but you don't go all the way in, right? And what's your shadow? Your unique shadow?
Going all the way in.
Going all the way in.
Elbow deep.
Elbow deep, all the way in.
Oh, that was too much.
And I'm like,
I
right?
apologize. That was too much for me.
Right? I was like, that's on you.
That's on me.
That's
my
on
bad,
you.
everybody.
That's on
Sorry.
you. That's on you.
Unnecessary.
Unnecessary. But it was really a beautiful moment. And
Yeah.
he was crying and I was crying. And this beautiful guy. And he actually we all got together in that moment. It was brave of him and he blew the place open. He was actually an intensely beautiful man. And he did this. This was like a devotional service. Sometimes you have in a deep seminar, someone stands for the whole group. And actually it turned out he needed the intensity of actually fulfilling his unique self and being in that Eros and actually confronting people in a way that was loving, but he was afraid to. So he only became a holding, feminine, receptive space. So he was dissociated from his unique self. An essential part of his unique self was in shadow. It was distorted. His fundamental unique self was distorted. So it expressed itself in shadow. And of course, what was so beautiful about the moment is that everyone kind of assumed like, there's no way you can make this work, right? This is not, but it always works. It's always true that when you're not living a dimension of your story, your unique story, not your ego story, right? When teachers say move beyond your story, they're true but partial. Move beyond your contrived ego story and embrace your unique self story. And we owe each other a big conversation on stories. So I know that, right? Embrace your unique self story. The precise extent that you split off any part of your story in the lineage, the Hebrew word for Sipur story is sapir, sapphire, which is the blue light. And in meditation and the psychedelics of meditation, the experience of the blue sapphire light is in all the traditions equated with unique self. Right? That experience, Muktananda, for example, from the Siddha Yoga tradition, always would talk about the blue light, which was the experience of God in you as you. Right? So when you're sapir, your sapphire, your story, same word in Hebrew, sapir and sipur, right? Same word, sapphire and story. When part of your sapphire, your story is split off, it goes into shadow, your unique self-distortion. Right? That's your unique shadow. And that's why you got to integrate it. It's so gorgeous. You integrate it, not just because if you split it off, it's going to take the wheel, because it's you. Right? In other words, you actually follow the yellow brick road of your unique shadow back to your unique self. Wow.
One of the things that I think people don't really sometimes realize is that part of your unique self, like the body itself, actually returns in your unique self in a way. It's like we think of the body as just the animalistic side, and then we think of the unique self as the transcendence of that, but actually it's the inclusion and transcendence of it. And so there's aspects of our animality that are there, our desire to, just like, you know, all of the, I mean, we carry with us traces of all the mammals that have kind of come before. Right. Maybe some have taken different turns, but there's a feral King Kong kind of pound your chest and you know, raise up and fight your rivals. There's a piece of that aggression that's part of our animality.
Give me that movement again? Nice.
And there's a piece of our desire to fuck, you know, to really fuck. And those are aspects actually that if we don't claim those as part of our unique self, now it doesn't mean that those actually have to turn to using your fists. Your fuck doesn't also have to mean that you use it to sleep with people. But you have to find that animality and know that that's in you, know that impulse towards aggression, that impulse and desire to fuck, that you have to find that, locate that, and then weave that into your story, however it's woven.
So you're weaving, you know, again, beautiful, right? You associate it from unique shadow to animality, from shadow to animality. So our animality is in shadow.
Mm-hmm.
We got to claim it in some way.
Yeah.
Yes. So now let's put the two together, brother. Okay. So you don't just have animality, you have unique animality. And this is a very, very, very big deal.
Yeah.
Okay. I've got a unique fuck.
Yeah.
And this is, you know, for our, you know, we have a big set of conversations to have on sexuality. So this is really for there, but I just want to say a word about it for a second. No one has just animality. You have unique animality. So what we try and do is we try and claim our animal in a way that's not true to ourselves, right? One of the names for unique animality is kink, right? Kink is an expression of unique animality, but kink is only one expression of it. We think that's the whole thing. We think when we're not actually accessing our unique animality, often we'll go for generic kink. Let me go for generic kink because I actually feel a little empty. That makes me feel alive. Let me go for that. Now, kink is beautiful, right? But actually, you want to go for your unique kink. Paradoxically, you can go for the generic kink. You want to find your own, right? Your own means that you have a unique sexuality. And just stay with me for a second, brother, because this is, I'm just so delighted that we get to have real conversations in the world. It makes the world so much of a better place, right? So I'm just feeling a wave of just delight and gratitude for the beauty of a real conversation. So we think that sex is an event, that fuck is an event that happens. Sex is not an event. Sex is a journey. And it's a big distinction. For us, there are sexual events. Okay, we did that. We did that kind of sex. These are all events, and the events are over. But sexing, my unique sexing is not an event. It's not a series of events. It's a journey. And it's a journey into the depth of my unique self. So stay with me for a second. The only way to actually be able to liberate oneself from the deadening effect of pornography, which is deadening. We need a new kind of pornography, a new kind of erotica, which is a different conversation that we've had offline and we've written about. And we'll talk about it at a different time, I'm sure. So we need to move from kind of porn 1.0 to kind of erotica 2.0, right? Porn 1.0 to porn 2.0, different conversation. But for now, let's talk about just kind of the deadening. I remember I was with a partner about a decade ago, and we said, okay, let's try the porn thing. Let's take a look, right? So and she had a very fancy TV, in this beautiful house kind of overlooking the ocean. There we are, kind of ready to take. We're flipping for 2 hours. One thing was more boring than the next. It was like we were yawning. It just wasn't interesting, right? It wasn't erotic, right? So now porn kind of focuses on sensation and on event and not on journey. But the pull is real. The pull of kind of deadening pornography. I'm talking kind of low grade, right? Degraded pornography is real because there's an instant, arousal that can happen. But the only way to actually liberate yourself from pornography, which is a huge issue that's actually deadening to you, right? So if it's liberating to you, so stay with it, right? If it's ethical, if there's no sexual slavery involved, right? If it's, it's done appropriately, well, great. And there's actually a channel called kink.com where a friend of mine worked, where they actually try and create kind of an ethical context, for example. So if it's ethical and it's arousing to you and everyone's treated in a holy way, so mad blessings to it, but you got to be careful. And that's a larger conversation I've shifted on pornography over the years because I've actually seen, the devastating effect on, kids who come to me who are 20, who've gone through 8 years. So that's a different conversation. But the only way to actually liberate yourself from it is to actually find your unique fuck. In other words, the only thing that is more alluring than pornography is the unique depth of your own unique animality, right? And it's very beautiful. It's very subtle. There's a unique way your body wants to move. There's a unique journey that deepens. And in a relationship, if you're together doing sex as a series of events, the sex and the relationship will die because you run out of events and you can hire 1 million event planners, right? And you get 1 million toys and tools, and you can have 1 million new partners who come in every once in a while to kind of, right, create the event. We're creating a new event with a new partner. I'm not saying that those are all possibilities, but those won't get you home. If those are part of something else, they're part of your unique sexual journey, your beloved's unique sexual journey, and now you're in a sexual journey together into your own unique embodiment, your unique animality, then that's more beautiful when you're 30 than when you're 20, when you're 40 than when you're 30, when you're 50 than when you're 40, when you're 60, when you're 70, when you're 80, and when you're 90. And by the way, I don't want to keep the 100, centurions out of this story. It's really beautiful. So yes, on animality, I would just say unique animality.
Yeah. I think that's good to.
Yeah, right.
It's good to understand too, because then we're not all trying to think like, oh man, I'm not expressing some aspect of my animality because look at this other person over here. It's like we're not all designed to be Kyle or Tim Kennedy or David Goggins or whoever these people. It's not always how our unique
those are all
makeup.
Those are scholars that listen.
Well, in their own way,
scholars of the flesh.
Scholars of the flesh, and
right. And your unique animality is wild, right? I mean, I remember 20 years ago, I was going out with a woman who was 20, was 30 years ago. Might be 35. How old am I? I'm only 30. Jesus. Anyways, I can't get the date straight, okay? So it was a long time ago. I was going out with this woman, right? Just gorgeous human being. And for whatever reason, this part of her body, right, was the place she was aroused. And it was a unique...
Mark's mentioning his ribs.
Right. And that whole area that's where Eros lived for her, right? And it was a unique, and it had there's a whole history to it. And there was so your unique animality is part of your unique myth. It's part of your unique story. It probably has something to say to you. Finding it and living it is the journey of a lifetime. And when that happens, the body sings, the body's intelligent, the body whispers, the body tells us things. When we say, through my body, I vision God, the verse in Job, it's not about the body as a generic body, right? The body is unique. That's what we talked about in our first dialogue of who are you? The body's unique. And so my animality is unique. That's a big deal. I'm super, super happy you brought that onto play, because we want our animality, but we take somebody else's, right? That doesn't work. It doesn't work. Yay.
It's something occurred to me in this conversation, and I offer it with the danger of leading us down another path that maybe not be the best path for this conversation, but it occurs to me that every one of our curse words that came to mind has to do with our animality.
That does lead us down a different path. You are right.
Fuck, shit, piss, cunt, pussy, asshole, cock.
That's right.
Every one of our curse words has something to do with our animality. And it's interesting, even having that as the bad words starts to create, shadow. It starts to split us off from our essential animality.
I hate when you do this, Aubrey. Right. No, it's beautiful, right? It is. It's such an important thing to say. So let's stay in it for a sec, because it's such a big fucking deal, right? We normally understand, and you brought us into the world of shame. Okay, you opened the door to shame, and we've already made a commitment to each other. That's 3 conversations we got to have big fucking time. It's a big conversation, but in a word, the initial level of shame is, I have an experience of my aliveness. I'm hanging out at home with my mother. She's single. She just got, for the first time, a new apartment. Isn't that great? She's out there talking to the painter, right? I'm hearing a lot of noises out there with her talking to the painter. This is a true clinical story, right? So something's going on with her and the painter, and there we are, and Dad's not home. I'm here, right, in the room, and I'm feeling a little, I'm feeling my own aliveness, my own kind of Eros moving in me. So Mommy left her purse in the room, and I go into the purse, I find her lipstick. And all these white walls, isn't that nice? And Mommy's busy out there. So I take out the lipstick, and I just start drawing on the walls, and I'm really excited. And there's another thing of lipstick, and Mommy's still out there, and right? Wow, look at that wall. It's filled with a crazy lipstick. And then I go outside to find Mommy, and she seems a little bit too close to the painter, but whatever. I'm 4 years old. I say, Mommy, come in. It's like, what are you doing here? And then she comes in with me. She's already a little bit irate. And she comes in and she sees the lipstick all over the room. She says, you little bitch, what did you do? Whoa, right? So that was my aliveness. My aliveness just got shamed. When I'm very, very young, my goodness and aliveness are inextricably bound. And we all have an experience of our aliveness, whether it's our sexual aliveness, right, being shamed. And so we got to move through shame, and shame is insidious and multi-layered we got to move through shame by actually telling that story, by being fair witness, by, shame festers in the dark. But here's the thing, and this is what you're pointing to, that takes you only through the first level of shame. There's a deeper level of shame, which we don't have time to go into now, but I call it the shame of finitude. Finitude, my mortality. And one of the 3 dimensions of the shame of finitude is the shame of my animality. And so we have this paradox. On the one hand, you're an animal, right, is a curse, or you're an animal is a compliment, right, depending on the context. But there's the shame of animality. Right? And the shame of animality is because animals seem to move in a herd, right? We don't actually see them as unique. They seem to move based on instinct, not based on choice. And I'm not going to get into the kind of, studies of animals and see what is true about that, what's not. But clearly animals don't have the same level of choice as humans, don't have the same level of individuation as humans, and animals don't build hospitals, right? So in other words, the notion that actually animals and humans are the same is a dumb idea, right? The notion that animals are, as Descartes thought, split off from the world of soul and life is also a horrifically cruel idea and creates factory farms. But for now, let's just say the shame of animality is that animality is this dimension of me which is not human, this dimension of me which hijacks the wheel of my life, right? It's not my kind of public face. It's not my nobility. So I'm shamed by my animality. So what we do is we take those words that express our animality, cock, shitting, pissing, fucking, right? You're an asshole. What does it mean when you call someone an asshole? Well, what does that even mean? You're an asshole. What do you even work with that sentence, right? Really? I'm not a finger? Really? I thought I was a belly. No, you're an asshole. What does that mean? Right? You're a fucking asshole, right? Meaning double animality, right? You're full of shit, you fucking asshole, right? Triple animality, you cunt fucking asshole cocksucker, right? Right? That's, what are we doing, right? Right? We're kind of piling on the animality here, right? Right? So we exile the shame into language.
Yeah.
Wow. Right? It's why actually reclaiming words is a big deal. And one of our promissory notes that we have not fulfilled, which we will at the right time, is talk about the word fuck. Right? So reclaiming these words and reclaiming my animality, but not by regressing to my animality, but by embracing and weaving my animality into my nobility. Right? There's no nobility unless I'm in my animality. Right? Split off my animality, right? Breathes my nobility, because my nobility comes from my power, right? From my fullness, or from my standing in it. And you can't stand in it as a disembodied artificial intelligence. You stand in your body, you stand in your cells, you stand in all of it that's moving through you. That's where nobility comes from. It's where beauty comes from. So animality has to be embraced, right? And we got to move past the shame of animality, but I've got to embrace my unique animality. And Aubrey's animality is different than Marc's. I mean, it's like a funny thing to say, and there's like a lot of jokes we could do now, and there's definitely a road down there. But just for a second, I'll bracket it. It's actually a very big deal, right? Because if I can't embrace someone else's animality, whether it's a beloved or a brother or a beloved brother, then I can't actually find them, because they've got a different quality of animality than I do. And if I subtly shame my close friends or my beloved's animality, and there's all sorts of subtle ways we shame it by kind of pushing it away. So wow, this is a big, it's a big road.
Yeah,
it's a big road.
This is part of the journey too. And again, this conversation, the overarching theme is your unique self, and part of understanding your unique self is to reclaim all of the aspects of your unique self, including these aspects that we mentioned.
All the split off stuff, which is it's your right. All the split off stuff has to be brought to the table, right? Because at its root, it's holding a dimension of your uniqueness. I mean, and we want to talk about unique risk for sure before we finish, but maybe let's just talk about joy and loneliness just for a second.
Sure.
Little joy, little loneliness. So just talk about loneliness for a second, right? All the lonely people. Right? I mean, I just think I'd forgotten until about this second. In my early 20s, I spent maybe age 20 to 26, 27, wanting only to write about one thing, loneliness. And I devoured the literature on loneliness, both the internal literature, just feeling to my own, just a very profound loneliness. I was intensely lonely. And I got divorced in my very, very, very early 20s. If I had to go back and do it again, I probably would stay in. And what moved the divorce was this intense feeling of loneliness. And I felt, that actually that was wrong. And it felt like a violation. And I was deeply attuned, to just the loneliness of people, all the lonely people. And what does it mean to be lonely, right? So we describe loneliness. Poetry describes loneliness, but we have to kind of define it to get it. So loneliness is my inability to share my soul print with another person, right? To share my unique self with another person. It's not just a feeling. It's not just a black. It's not just a depression, right? Loneliness is my inability to share the essence of who I am with another person. And there's not that many people we can share it with, right? And so people say, why are we lonely? Because we don't have people to share it with. Well, that's sometimes true, right? We need someone to share it with, but often we're lonely not because we don't have people to share it with, but because A, we don't know how to share it, or B, we don't know what it is,
Mm.
right? In other words, you can't share your soul print or your unique self unless you have a sense of what it is, right? So if I'm actually alienated from my own soul print, my own unique self, I can't share it with anyone. And the experience of the interior of me, being unable to talk to the interior of you uniquely. If my unique interior can't make your unique interior, life is not worth living. That's the human experience. It's an accurate experience. There's actually a text on this. And the text is, it's not good for the human being to be lonely. It's a primary sacred text, right, of the Western tradition, right, rooted in Genesis 2. It's an incredible text. The actual text reads, Lo tov heyot adam levado. It's not good for the human being to be alone, but the context of the text suggests it's not alone, it's lonely, right? And so the experience of loneliness is shattering, and we deny it.
Yeah. And and you've mentioned this before, and I think it was one of the very moving parts of Avatar was that instead of saying, I love you, they said, I see you,
Right.
which is the unique self witnessing the unique self of another. And in that witnessing unique self to unique self, you're accessing the field of love intelligence, love beauty, love desire, because that's what you see. You see the truth and you see the unique
Right.
person before you, and you fall in love. Fall
Yeah.
in love is a challenging term, but of course you're in love. You're in
love. You're
in love with the one you see.
It's gorgeous, right? And now we're back to where we started, which is love is a unique self-perception.
Yeah.
Right? It's not just in the emotion. It's not that love's not an emotion. There's obviously an affect, a deep emotion to love, right? Right? But the emotion comes from the perception, right? Because if it's just the emotion, energy and motion, the energy dissipates. But when it's a perception, it deepens all the time. It deepens all the time. And I shared with you once in a different context, I think we were not in a podcast, but when I shared this, in this strange meeting with the Dalai Lama where he invited me to Dharamsala, and we had a fabulous, gorgeous time after he had actually taken something of mine and brought it to Dharamsala with an impish smile and kind of said to me, come to Dharamsala and get it back, which I did. And we had a gorgeous time, and we actually wound up doing this gorgeous public dialogue. And the thing he got most excited about, and was literally, there's a recording of it, I think, on my website someplace. He was beautiful, beautiful, in that kind of beautiful Dalai Lama, childish, adult, noble way, was this idea that love's not an emotion, that love's a perception, right? And that love's a unique self-perception, because that's so hopeful. Because if it's an emotion, we're 25, it's happening, it's kind of hot, 35 grade, then it's gone. But actually, if it's a perception, we deepen perception. We can actually cultivate perception. We can cleanse the doors of perception until all we see is the infinite. Right? So to love a person is to love their infinite specialness, their unique Aubreyness. And the more we talk, actually, we just spent a week together. We spent a lot of time on the phone and studying, but actually, I know you better a week later. We've been in a house together, right? In the morning, right? I love you so much more than I did a week ago. Right? It's beautiful, right? It's a unique self-perception. The more we see, we sense the nuance. So it's big.
And it's big in relationship too. And one of the things that, I thought was actually the great virtue and a great teacher from my years in a polyamorous relationship was actually, it was the most honest relationship that I was ever in, because we didn't have to hide those desires that we had. We didn't have to pretend anything. We could really genuinely be honest about what we wanted, because all the things that we wanted, as far as at least the expression of our sexuality, were on the table.
We're on the table.
They were on the table. And so there was a real beauty to that. Now, there was other ways in which we wouldn't see each other, couldn't see each other, or our jealousy would blind us to the truth. There was all this stuff, but there was something really valuable about that. And when I would share one of the virtuous lessons of this, it was, you don't have to be polyamorous. Of course not. But what I felt like was necessary for you to overcome loneliness was to actually at least share what your desires were and have those desires held by your partner so that you could actually be seen. And without being seen, you're locked in this place where you're never going to actually feel fully loved, because your unique self in its totality will never be recognized. And so you'll be perpetually lonely.
And that is gorgeous and important. I'm going to take issue with you, but not really take issue with you. I'm just going to play for a second. But you actually have to be polyamorous, right? There's actually a moral obligation. I want to state it here clearly. There's a moral obligation to be polyamorous. Anyone who's not polyamorous is in violation of their true nature. Now, I don't mean sexually polyamorous, right? Because actually God's polyamorous, right? Let's be clear, right? And what religions tried to say in the medieval period is God's monogamous with me. That was the point of the great religions. God's monogamous. God only loves me, my people. God doesn't love your people. God loves only my people. So in other words, monotheism in its classical forms, or kind of Buddhism, Tibetan Buddhism made the same claim as kind of classical monotheisms did, right? Now, Buddhism said reality, shunyata, the ground of being, only loves this particular form of Tibetan Buddhism, right? And Judaism, Christianity, Islam, right? Sufism, as noble as it was, and as much Rumi as we read, right, made a similar claim, right? God loves only me. That was the tragedy of the medieval period. It was rivalrous conflict governed by win-lose metrics, but not between individuals, but between religions. God loves only me. Whoa, let's slow down, right? Slow down. It's like a big fucking deal.
Yeah.
So God's polyamorous. Let's start there. God's polyamorous. God not only loves, right, every human being and every being, right? God not only is the love that suffuses all reality, that holds all reality, right? But God also, in the image of the interior sciences, is fucking everyone. Meaning divinity is interested in intimate communion with you, right? The actual language of the text is HaKadosh Baruch Hu mitaveh, right? Divinity lusts. That's the precise translation. Divinity lusts, right? Lasot dirato, to make his, her dwelling place, but tachtonim, in your lower places. What a text, right? So there's this great urge of divinity to erotically merge, and that's called zivug im hashchina, the erotic union with the divine, with she, right? So this is pointing towards, right? And here's the deal. Divinity is not just urging, right? Not just moved by this urge, this divine urgency to merge with Aubrey. Sorry about this, but God wants to fuck me too, right? Right? And KK, and Lady Vi, and Christian. I don't know if you know this, but God wants to fuck you, man. Okay, just letting you know, Ryan. Just be looking out there, right? But it's exactly right. God wants to fuck me open and love me open, right? And wants my merger with he, she, which is me merging with my highest self, and my highest self is part of this larger field of self with a capital S. So God's polyamorous. Now, let's stay with this for a second. It's kind of beautiful. So in the classical traditions, the injunction is imitatio Dei, be like God. Well, you got it, right? If God's polyamorous, then I should be polyamorous, but not per se sexually. Is that right? And we exile Eros into the sexual.
Yeah.
No. Be erotically polyamorous. And what I mean by that is fall in love. I'm not saying fall romantically in love, but if you exile your experience of loving to one person, you only love one person, then you're actually dead already. When I was 17, I was madly in love with D.H. Lawrence. I just madly in love. And he wrote Lady Chatterley's Lovers, the famous book. We wrote another book called Sons and Lovers. See, a gorgeous book. And one of the protagonists says to his potential beloved, he said, I can only be with you if when I love you, you're not a wall and my love stops there, right? I've got to be able to, through you, love all of reality. And it's very beautiful, right? And I want to be for KK, I want to be, right, the transparent prism. I want her to love me personally and uniquely and completely, right? And I want through me, she's able to love lots of people, not in the same way, not with the same quality, right? There's a monogamy between us. So KK and I have a monogamous polyamory, and I'm not talking about sexuality. I'm talking about, right, we both love a lot of people, but there's a unique quality to our love. There's a unique commitment, right? We sleep in the same bed, right? We have shared bank accounts. We're committed to each other's unique self in a particular way. We have an emotional intimacy of a particular kind, right? So there's a monogamous polyamory, but do not trust anyone, right, to love you who's not polyamorous. And again, by polyamorous, I mean, right, a kind of polyamorous. I love more than one person, and we have to fall in love with each other.
And this is one of these frameworks that needs to actually be given life and light. So,
right.
Because otherwise, when you're told a different story, then that leaves room for jealousy.
Anthropologically, I feel, what's wrong with me? Why am I loving more than one person?
Right. And also, if your partner is, whether that's even, it could even, or even your friends, like people get jealous of friendships when friendships blossom and there's a particular strong season of allurement with a new friend. Friendships can even get jealous.
Totally.
You know, so it's not just
And
lovers.
your partner can say, why are you paying so much attention to that friend?
Yeah,
That's
totally.
because there's a sense of scarcity. Because, let's stay close for a second, it's gorgeous, because we experience love as being ordinary love. And maybe this is worth a second. It's worth a billion years. This is what you and I were talking about the other day. We were hanging out, deep inside studying. And we were talking about the exile of love, right? So there's this sixfold exile of love. We take love from the cosmic, outrageous love, or Eros, that inheres in reality, and we exile it to the human realm. Exile 1. Exile 2. We exile it only to the human realm of emotion. It's a particular emotion, right? Exile 3, it's the emotion of infatuation, right? Exile 4, it's infatuation, which yields a particular kind of fuck that looks a particular way. Exile 4. Exile 5, that's got to be only with one particular person in your entire life if it's true love. And exile 6, and it's got to last and look like that way your entire life. We've just destroyed culture. Welcome to the destruction of culture. We've just done it. It's unbelievable, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we have to liberate the experience of loving. No, actually, love's not just ordinary love. And if it's ordinary love, it's a human strategy. So then there's not a lot to go around, because all that love is just me, and there's so much love in me. And if I give some of it to somebody else, right, there's the sense of scarcity. But if it's outrageous love, if it's Eros, I'm actually part of the field of Eros in reality that's moving through me. There's a lot more of that to go around. And it's not just an emotion, it's a perception. And if love is a perception, I get to fall in love with Aubrey.
Yeah.
And I couldn't be alive if I couldn't do that. Right? When do you feel most alive? When you fell in love. So imagine you fell in love only once. A person fell in love once, for about 6 weeks, right, in their life, if it lasted that long, right? And if they had 6 weeks of falling in love with one person, and the entire rest of their life, culture tells them never fall in love again. And that's your maximal aliveness. It means you've got 6 weeks of 80 years or 9 of your maximal aliveness, and the entire rest of the time you're in dead-end place. That's a collapse of Eros, right? The collapse of Eros leads to the collapse of ethics. That's what we've struggled. We've got to literally evolve the source code out of culture itself.
Now, let's say someone's just listening to this, and we haven't done this very much in these dialogues, but I think this is a worthy place. Let's say someone is deeply moved and inspired by this discussion, and it makes perfect sense, which is actually one of the impetuses for my polyamory journey, is this understanding of the way that God loves, the way that the sun does not choose, oh, I love this tree, but not this tree. I'm only going to give my love there. And I was using the sun as a metaphor for the divine at that point. And I just understood that there was something about the divine nature of love that I wanted to actually model in my own nature of love. And of course, there are my vital, carnal, primal, feral, hairy desires.
Vital, carnal, primal, feral, hairy. I got it.
Yeah. Those desires.
I got it.
Those desires are there too. But if somebody's inspired by this, but either they, if in an honest assessment, you don't have to raise your hand or anything, but in an honest assessment, know that they find themselves jealous when their sworn monogamous Eros partner is finding a kind of allurement or a love with somebody else, or they're in a partnership, conversely, where their desire to love, even if it doesn't involve sexuality, and I think we should actually exclude sexuality from the table here for this.
That's right. We're talking about polyamory as loving big.
If people want to move into this, what are some of the practices? What is the yoga that we can step into that can help open this up so that we can kind of loosen the vice grip that these ideas that are destroying culture have on us?
Yeah, no, that's great. I mean, what we're saying is our love lists are too short, right? Yeah. Right. We need to be enlivened by the experience of falling in love, right? How do we do it in a way that can actually not shatter our containers, right? How do we find our way in? And so I think first we just have to practice loving, okay? And the first practice of loving is to actually insert a wedge of awareness. So I'm sitting and eating, This is going to sound silly, but it's a beautiful tantric and it's beautiful. I'm eating. The food's delicious. I barely notice I'm eating it. Because let me stop for a second. Let me notice the taste. My favorite food, let me fall in love with the food. Just start there. Second, right, I see something wildly beautiful, right? A gorgeous tree. I want to fall in love with the tree. Right? Meaning, falling in love means love is a perception. So it's not I'm getting an entangled emotional relationship with the tree, but I perceive the divinity in the tree. So now that you get that love is a unique self-perception, you actually get, oh, so now I see this unique tree that's unlike any other, and it just blows my heart open. So now I'm training myself in loving. You see, our training in loving is that loving means we fall in love, right? Our general move is kind of either love, fuck, trust, or fuck, love, trust. Unclear which way it goes. Usually it's fuck, love, trust. A bad order. You should go trust, love, fuck. Different conversation. But we associate, when you say falling in love, you associate that with the U-Haul, right? In other words, we fell in love, we shared our assets, we forgot to do the prenup, right? And here we are living together, and this is my one and only. That's not what falling in love means. So we have to retool and reclaim the language of falling in love, right? I fall in love with an idea when I perceive the divinity and the gorgeousness of an idea. When I fall in love with a tree, I fall in love with food, I fall in love with a place, right? I fall in love with an animal. Now that I'm training falling in love, now I'm getting really well trained. Now I can meet you and fall in love, right? I can fall in love, and doesn't mean we're going to sleep together, right? It's not a sexual issue. It's an erotic issue, right? And I actually fall in love with your divinity, with your beauty, right? And I kneel and I kiss the ground, and I'm in devotion to you, and I'm delighted by you, and I let you delight me, right? And I'm perceiving and seeing, and when you look in my face, you see your unique beauty. That's what it means, right? When I'm in love with you, you look in my face and you're blown away by your own beauty, right? That is how you create a society. And here's the thing. We're not going to take care of each other if we're not in love with each other. The environmentalists, thought we can actually show people that they're going to die if we don't take care of the environment, and they're going to take care of the environment. That's not true. You can't get a person, even for their own utilitarian, unless it's like happening tomorrow. If there's any split off in time, if there's any temporal split, people have temporal myopia. People can't see past a very, very short amount of time. So if you tell people, if you fuck the environment, in X amount of years, it's going to get fucked, they're not going to do anything. The only way you can create actually a kind of love of the environment is to fall in love with it. If we don't fall in love with reality, we won't create a successful environmental movement. It can't be done on utilitarian grounds. Right? Existential risk, the death of humanity. If we don't fall in love with each other, the existential risk to the present, if we don't fall in love with the future, right? So I spend, and maybe this is too much of a confession to share on a public podcast, right? But I spend a decent amount of my time meditating on unborn children, right? So when I meditate, I'm meditating on the unborn, so I can actually have a shared identity with the future. Intimacy equals shared identity. I want to be intimate with the future. And I want to feel the unborn calling to me. I want to fall in love with the unborn, right? Because otherwise I can't work with existential risk. So I've got to cultivate my capacity, the great work of becoming a lover. And if reality is Eros equals outrageous love, then I have to become an outrageous lover. And it's outrageous to be a lover. So we've got to actually train in loving. I'll just give you one other yoga, just a direct yoga. Right. So there's a practice, and I know, again, this is, I apologize, friends, listeners, this is another promissory note, right? That, we're going to do a deep dive dialogue on what outrageous love is and the practices of outrageous love. But one practice of this Eros moving through this outrageous love, which is not ordinary love human, it's the cosmic love moving uniquely through me, is what we call the practice of writing outrageous love letters. So at the think tank, and in the kind of group of friends and colleagues and students, that is involved in this kind of great writing of the news story, we write each other outrageous love letters, right? And when you write an outrageous love letter, you exaggerate till you're accurate. And actually, even without calling it by that practice, you and I actually fell into that practice, naturally, right? And so I'll often write you a note and say, hey, my love. And what do I mean? Do I mean that I'm competing with Vailana or that you're competing with Christina? No. But saying, hey, buddy, actually not how I feel, right? It doesn't, right? And actually something relaxes in my field. Like, oh, I'm reaching out to Aub. Right? Wow, that's great.
Yeah.
Right? And something happens there, and you can literally feel in the text, you can feel the transmission of it. And if it's somehow off or rushed, you feel that also. It's all, right? You can feel the whole thing. So we actually developed a formal practice, which is called the writing of outrageous love letters, which are written not between sexual beloveds. You can, I write
Well,
out.
it could be.
It's totally could be. It's beautiful between sexual beloveds. It's not limited to sexual beloveds.
Mhm.
So I write and receive, sometimes a couple of dozen outrageous love letters in a day, right? Every single day. Now, they're not letters. They're usually a note, couple of words, but just back and forth, right? With a whole circle of people, with men, with women, with small mammals. I mean, just right, right? But it's a practice. It's the practice of writing outrageous love letters, which is the practice of the Song of Solomon, which is the most sacred text in the canon, which is actually, when you read the song, it's not an essay on love, not a Western essay. It's not a koan. It's a series of outrageous love notes between a lover and beloved. And that book is called Kodesh Kodeshim, the Holy of Holies.
Mm.
So that's the practice of writing outrageous love notes, is the practice of Song of Songs. And it's the yoga of polyamory, but not the yoga of sexual polyamory, but of loving wide and loving big. Our love lists are too short. We can't engage existential risk without longer love lists.
Amen.
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 And you got to take a unique risk to do that.
Oh, the segue.
Oh, the segue.
I didn't know how you were going to get there.
Oh, the segue.
But it worked.
Right? So unique risk. Unique risk is a big one. So here's the sentence. You can't realize your unique self, which is the purpose of human life. Not because we declare it to be so, but because the inherent movement of cosmos is towards uniqueness. We go through all of the steps of reality till we get to the human level. We go through all the levels of human development. We get to where we are today, and we have this new realization of unique self. So just to say that, realization of unique self is new, right? I'm a unique expression of the evolutionary impulse. I can feel and see the whole evolutionary story, and I'm now an expression of conscious evolution. I'm aware of the whole evolutionary story, and I actually know and feel that the evolutionary impulse is awake and alive in me. I have a unique gift to give. The love, desire, and love intelligence and love beauty of all realities are moving through me, right? I'm here to live, realize my unique self, give my unique gift, and be my unique self. It's not just my unique gift. It's actually the unique quality of my being, which is a gift by itself. That's the purpose of my life. To do that, I have to take my unique risk. There's no possible way to do that without taking a unique risk. And anyone who thinks they're just going to glide into it doesn't work that way, right? It's kind of the cosmic, principle, applied to unique self of kind of the old no pain, no gain, right? There's always a unique risk. And being willing to take my unique risk is everything.
I've been using a lot of Game of Thrones references because I'm watching it with Vi, and there's something that just came to mind that I think people who are also Game of Thrones heads like myself, there's this idea in the Iron Islands, the Greyjoys who run the Iron Islands, that you pay the salt price for anything that's worth it. And the salt price is like, you don't wear jewelry. You don't go to the jeweler and buy jewelry because your family had money and then you just buy jewelry. If you have jewelry, it's because and again, they had a whole different culture, like a Viking culture of raiding and reaping and, and fighting. But you take it off the slain enemy, and then you get to put it on your body. That's paying the salt price because you took the unique risk to actually risk your blood and your life to have earned it. And it's like you pay the salt price. And in some ways, it's a pre-personal idea about what this is, which really means to actually get what is of true value, you have to put your blood on the line. You have to pay the salt price.
You have to pay the salt price. And let's just put the two together now. But you only want to pay the salt price for your unique risk.
Right.
So risk is not unique risk. So often we risk for something which wants to give us a sense of pseudo-eros, wants to give us separate self-status and ego. We take wild risks for that. I only want to take that level of risk where I'm willing to literally risk my life for the sake of my unique self.
Yeah.
Right? And my unique self might be in service, it might be in devotion, it's in love, it's in creativity, but I'm going to lay my life down, right? Whether that's figuratively and sometimes literally, but we hope not to die for it. We hope to live for it, right? For my unique self. And it's like, because you can't get there without it. And here's the funny thing. It's not actually really a risk because my entire life force comes from my unique self. So if I don't do that, I'm going to die. I'll be deadened. I'll die. I'll go into depression. I'll go into breakdown, right? I'll go into a sense of what Steiner called ennui, this kind of sense of kind of sick deadness. Kierkegaard called it a sickness unto death, right? This sense of malaise, right? So not to take my unique risk is insanity, but I've got to be willing to take it and to identify, is that my unique risk, right? I mean, that's a very, very big deal. There's I'm thinking about, it's an example. Here's an example, and maybe, we can, I'm sure both come up with 5 of them, but let me just, the first one that comes to mind. We were talking about this the other day, back in 2014. I'm with my dear friend, actually, who's, a local Austin boy, John Mackey. We ran something called the Success Summit. It was great. It was really beautiful, and the book hasn't yet been written. We did one book out of it, but it's about this new vision of success, different dialogue, different conversation. And it was a great thing to do. And there were 1,000 people there, and there was art and beauty and love and creation and creativity. And in a certain sense, it wasn't exactly what I should have been doing. Mm. And as I did that, because I thought it was less risky than writing, I did it because I loved it. But, underneath the loved it, and underneath the beauty of it, and underneath and I ran it with my friend Michael, from Agape, and it was gorgeous. But like underneath, if I get you had to get really quiet, really, really quiet. If I would go really, really deep, I realized, I should write a phenomenology of Eros, and I should write about kind of revisioning sexuality. But wow, I've dealt with a little controversy around that shit. I'm a little tired. Let's talk about success. That's a kosher topic, a mainstream kosher topic. And let me do that, right? So in a certain sense, at that moment, I wasn't willing to take my unique risk because, and she's madly blessed to me. I feel alive and I have more energy than I know what to do with.
And when Mark says she, he's referring to Shekhinah.
Shekhinah, Eros, the field of Eros, she. And yet there was a part of me, a hidden part of me I couldn't even identify that was tired. It's like, really? I'm going to write a phenomenology of Eros? Are you for real? Right? And I'll change culture, and I'll also get, murder of Eros and get, crucified. I mean, how many times can you get crucified? Let's only one time in a lifetime. And so I didn't do it. So I didn't take my unique risk. And of course, what happened is out of that Success Summit, I actually had to deal with another tragedy that actually emerged from it that we dealt with. And it was, effective, and we were able to transform it. But it was, a direct result in my own self-understanding. No one else could tell me it. If someone else would tell me that, I'd tell them to go fuck off. Don't tell me why that happened. That's spiritual bullshit. Mm-hmm. But you can say it to yourself, right? It was like, wow, I didn't take my unique risk. Now, here's the thing. No one can tell you what your unique risk is. There's no spiritual teacher. There's no psychologist. There's no guru, right? That comes from your own intimacy with yourself. That's Reberer, right? That word that you and I have used so often, which comes from the lineage, the clarification of risk, the clarification of desire. What's your unique risk? So to be a human being is to know your unique risk. If you don't take it, you're already dead.
And I think one thing to double click on here,
please,
just quickly is, one of my, former teachers, Maestro Hamilton Souther, he said one thing that's very simple and very self-evident, but he said, when you're actually dealing with challenging aspects of what you may encounter in the astral and how to integrate those aspects and how to actually, and it applies to life as well, it's like energy levels matter. And in this moment, actually, it was, and there's another, from a sports perspective, my old boxing coach, Rudy Vasquez, would say, fatigue makes cowards of us all, meaning that, there's a point at which when you run out of energy, actually, you're not willing to take your unique risk because pain increases, the more energy you push when you're already tired, and you actually step back from it. And that's actually when you get your ass kicked.
Right.
So what he was saying is you allow that moment to happen, you're going to get cornered in the ring and you're going to get pounded until you drop to the canvas. Like, this is what happens. You just take way more damage. Or on the other side, this is, in your example, it's where some gnarly things happen. So being aware of your energy and then sustaining your energy, trying to build your life force, your vitality through lots of ways in which you're expressing in life. But also, like, the reason I wrote Own the Day, Own Your Life, was to create an arc of an entire day that could actually support your vital energy, because actually that matters for the whole picture. And to ignore that would be to be a little bit foolish. To say that I'm going to act exactly the same when I'm full of energy and vital life force as I'm going to act when I'm exhausted on 2 hours of sleep, tired, coming off of 7 days of Burning Man where I've depleted my serotonin systems.
Right.
Energy levels matter. They fucking matter.
They matter. They matter. And I mean, this action, we'll come back to unique risks. That's, you wound us around there into energy levels, which is critical. You're absolutely right. And that sense of kind of the imperceptible sense of being tired.
Yeah.
Right. And tiredness for me is the thing I didn't even know what tiredness was. The notion that I could be tired, but it was just that fatigue. And I love that. Give me that fatigue statement again.
Fatigue makes cowards of us all.
It's fantastic.
Yeah.
Fatigue makes cowards of us all. So joy's got a big play here. And not happiness, but joy. Joy in the lineage is associated, in what's called in the lineage, the Hebrew wisdom lineage, what's called the tree of life, which has 10 qualities. Sefirot, they're called, qualities or illuminations of reality, or illuminations of the divine. And one of those Sefirot is called Binah. And Binah is kind of intuitive wisdom. And Binah is associated, the kind of energy of Binah is associated with joy. Right? So the Binah is the higher she, the higher Shekhinah, the higher Eros. She's called the higher Eros. There's kind of a lower Shekhinah, a lower she, and a higher she. The higher she's called Binah. She's the kind of raw Eros of cosmos, and she's joy. Right? She's associated with joy. So joy is an energy. Now, this gets really beautiful. So remember our image that we talked about maybe 2 hours ago, however long we're in here. We talked about an electric cord. Everyone's got the same electric cord. It's your sameness. Then you got the plug at the end of the cord. That's your unique self. It plugs into, as it were, the circuit of reality, and you're filled with energy. Meaning, there's not generic energy. There's unique energy. That's a very big deal. So Aubrey's energy can only come through his unique self. Now, let's now get to joy. So where does joy come from? So Constitution, founding document, America, pledge allegiance to the flag, born in the USA, right? Right? Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. So life, good value. Liberty, I'm all about liberty, right? We're all, liberty is really important. Not just freedom from, but freedom for something. Right? So real freedom. Pursuit of happiness, pursuit of joy is a crock. Right? They got that one wrong. You can't pursue happiness. You can't pursue joy. That is a categorical human error, and the entire self-help movement is about that error.
So you don't disambiguate happiness and joy.
Well, let's for now, I'm going to lump them, right? And you just wanted to use the word disambiguate, and I know that, which I get that. I'm in.
Yeah.
I'm in. It's worth it, right?
Yeah, for sure.
It's such a fucking good word, isn't it? Right? You're right. I'm not splitting. I'm not disambiguating for the moment happiness and joy. I'm using them the way the founders, use them, as kind of generally the same thing. Correct, right? For the present. So life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Life, good, liberty, good. Pursuit of happiness is a crock. Why? Because when you pursue happiness, it runs in the opposite direction. Just a rule, right? You try and be happy. There's a story, right, about a master whose student says, you told me that you can't pursue happiness. Kind of this is a loose translation from, Aramaic, Yiddish, Hebrew. And he said, so I always ran away from happiness, and happiness never came and found me. He said, well, you were running away, but you were always looking behind you to see if happiness was following. So happiness was confused about which way you were going, right? Right. But the point is, you can't pursue happiness. So So, well, how do you get joy? How do you get happiness? And yes, I'm using them together now for a second. So the way you get joy, you get to happiness by pursuing something other than happiness. And as a natural byproduct of that other pursuit, you get joy.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So what's that other thing that you pursue? The other thing you're pursuing, I had an argument with my colleague then, Dennis Prager, right? Dennis and I did a conversation, I think, on his show about this. And Dennis said, well, you pursue, ethics and goodness. And as a byproduct of pursuing ethics and goodness, you get joy. No, that's not true. Ethics and goodness are good things to pursue, but you will not get joy just as a byproduct of pursuing ethics and joy. You've got to pursue your unique ethics, your unique self, your unique goodness. In other words, joy is a byproduct of living your unique self. That's a big deal, meaning there can be ups and there can be downs. There's going to be agony and ecstasy. There can be crisis, right? There can be breakdowns and breakthroughs. But when you're in your story, when you're living your story, right? When you're doing that, right? Joy is a byproduct of living your story. It's a byproduct, and your story is your unique self. Joy is a direct byproduct of living your unique self story. Now, that means that if joy is energy, right? Because joy is understood in the lineage correctly as being actually a current of energy. In Hebrew, it's chiyut, C-H-I-Y-U-T, chiyut, raw energy, which is similar to chi, right? In the Chinese system, the chi, right? The energy of cosmos. So my joy, right, is actually a function of my unique self, right? And as I get joy as a byproduct of living my unique self, because that plug at the end of that cord is my unique self. So I plug in my unique self, right? That is my access, my conduit to joy. There's no other conduit to joy. So the precise extent, it's a directly proportional relationship, right? That I'm not living my unique self. So if someone tells me I don't have energy, I can't find my joy, I know they're not living their unique self. So then I talk to them not about how to get more energy. I talk to them about their unique self. And we can almost always correlate the two. Okay, if you were doing more of that, so people only do less, so I'll have more energy. No, do more, but do more of your unique self. That's where energy comes from. That's really beautiful. And you correlate it and say you can't take your unique risk. You can't know what your unique risk is unless you're awake. Awake on all levels. You got energy. What if I asked you what your unique risk was, what would it be?
That's a very personal question, Mark. That's a very personal question that I don't think I'm quite prepared to answer in public. But it is, if just to say,
that is a personal question. I apologize.
That's all right. I'm very transparent here. I think it's actually the embodiment of the possibility of what my consciousness uniquely can hold. The frequency that my consciousness can uniquely hold. And my unique risk is the feeling that I think comes from the same lineage that you're from, which is if you actually step into the full breadth of your aliveness and consciousness, you get fucking nailed and you get the spear and you get the crucifix. And this is what happens if you step into your full aliveness.
Yeah.
So keep the lights down on the dimmer just a
enough.
little bit, just enough that you're safe. And I think really and this doesn't mean I'm trying to be fucking Jesus or something. It's just about turning my lights all the way up. And I think the unique risk is, do I trust to turn my own unique Aubrey light all the way up? Can I crank it to the maximum?
Yeah.
And that's, one aspect of my unique risk. Another is there's certain topics that I'd like to talk about maybe. Certain aspects, like, I've shared this, I write erotic fiction. Some part of me kind of wants to share it, but it's like, I don't know. Does that really make sense? So there's little other elements of things that I kind of want to do that feel risky and edgy.
Yeah.
And so there's a couple different components, but it's a beautiful question, and it's an intimate question.
Yeah, it's an intimate question. So first off, I apologize insincerely, right? But for asking it, and I super appreciate it. It was a really beautiful answer, right? And I share both of those with you, right? In other words, the murder of Eros is a real thing.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of the Return to Eros book that I wrote with KK, we wrote a chapter on the murder of Eros. And as I went through, a bunch of years ago, this tragedy moment, my response was to sit with Christina and to write this book, Return to Eros. because I had kind of turned away from Eros in a certain way. I'd done the Success Summit, and I realized I've got to go back to she and actually write about her. That's what she wants. So I wrote Return to Eros, and at the end, we wrote this very poignant chapter, and poignant for us anyways, right, about the murder of Eros, right? In other words, there is and Reich talks about it. Reich calls it, he wrote a book by this name, Wilhelm Reich. He wrote a book called The Murder of Christ. It doesn't mean Christ, just like you said, I don't mean to be Jesus, but by Christ, he meant the same thing you meant by Jesus, the fullness of life force.
Yeah.
And Reich talks about the desire to murder life force, that he calls the murder of Christ. We call it the murder of Eros, right? There's a desire to murder Eros because when someone's embodying Eros, it reminds me of that which I'm not embodying. And Reich wrote a second book called Listen, Little Man, right? Which was about, the little man or this desire, right, to murder Eros, where I'm not on the inside. I'm not inside my circle of Eros. So I place someone else on the outside and go to kill them, right, in order to give myself the illusion of being on the inside. So, that sense of, wow, do I let Aubrey-ness shine all the way? And there's no, right, and no one can answer that question, right? If anyone would ever attempt to answer that question for you or for me, they can't do that. They can advise, they can share, but in the end, right, there's this very deep resonance of what does that mean? And it's a very unique, particular, gorgeous, it's called in the lineage, Pratei Divrei Torah, the individual revelation to Aubrey-ness, right? That revelation, that illumination, right? How far do I go, right? What do I share? There's a practice we have of outrageous love letters, and there's a practice we have of outrageous erotic love letters, right? So outrageous erotic love letters is a very, very beautiful practice. Christine and I did that practice for, years. And in the circle, there's a particular track, this practice of outrageous erotic love letters that people have written, and they're intensely beautiful. I mean, they're elegant, they're sacred, right? And there was a movement at a certain moment, let's publish them all. The world needs them. And it was like, well, maybe not. Right? In other words, is that a unique risk? And I thought actually at the time that it was. And well, maybe it's not. Right? You know what I mean? In other words, so you actually have to wrestle with this, and you have to be willing to be in the cauldron and the wrestling of where are you going to drive your stake in the ground?
Right.
You drive your stake into the ground for your unique risk. And sometimes there's different moments in life.
Sometimes it's just a risk.
And some right, and some it's just a risk, right? Because that's why it's called a unique risk.
Right.
Right. And I'm not going to give you one last example. Or will I? That's a unique risk. Right, right. No, there's this, right. Unique risk. Whether I should share with you this unique risk, right? It's back, and it's back. I'm living in the Middle East at the time, and someone's coming to Israel, who wants to be in a relationship, and calls me and calls a very close friend of mine, and completely appropriate, above board, in all the good ways, and something in my body said like, can I trust this person? And so I called the person. I can remember the conversation to today. And I said, whatever the name was, I said, hey, this is a totally legitimate, beautiful, great, she was studying with me, and she wanted to have a relationship. I had her talk to, a woman I was very close to, was holding a lot of my world, and they had a great talk. And, it was done in such integrity, And I said, can I trust you? We wound up going out for 6 weeks. That was it. It was a short period of time. I said, can I trust you? And my body told me not to. And I thought, you know what? This is my unique risk. I want to be a trusting person. And I don't want to let the experience of having been betrayed, right, violate my ability to trust. That's what I told myself. And I trusted the person, and it was a mistake. Let the hint be sufficient to the wise, right? And so I thought that was my unique risk, and it wasn't.
Yeah.
I actually should have listened to the murmurings of my body, right? And so unique risk is a very personal, intimate conversation, but it's one that no person who wants to live the fullness of their unique self can avoid having. There is a unique risk to live my unique self, and if it's not there, then it's not your unique self.
Yeah, and it's the pathway to your unique gift.
And it is the pathway. It's the pathway to your unique gift. which the world desperately needs. Right? Which the world desperately needs. And maybe, as we move towards closure, that realization, when we kind of go back to the beginning of what we said, right? It's like, wow, right? You're an irreducibly unique expression of the love intelligence and love beauty and love desire that needs your service. The experience of being needed is the most wondrous human experience, right? We're not at home in the world. We don't feel welcome in the world until we're needed.
Mm-hmm.
And really, it's a conversation which I think is also about our second of the three great questions of cosmologic humanism, which is, where are you? Am I in a world that welcomes me? Are there welcome signs in the universe? So we'll get to that conversation, but maybe just for a moment now, you can't be welcome in the universe if you're not living your unique self.
Mm-hmm.
When you're living your unique self, you have your unique self is a welcome sign tacked onto, right, the doorway of your life. If you're not living your unique self, your essential experience of being alive is you're not quite welcome. You're like a guest who reality's putting up with. And it's kind of like, you go to someone's house and they try and make you, totally welcome. And, you do your best and you're there and, everyone's good. And you're sitting at the table, but you kind of want to get home. But then you're sitting at the table and let's say something happens and they pick up the phone and, the person or the man or the woman picks up the phone and, wow, something went wrong. And they turn to you, oh my God, I'm so glad you're here. You're the one person who can deal with this for me. Like, right?
Yeah.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
The whole sense of alienation's gone. You're welcome. So unique self gives me the experience that I'm welcome in reality. Doesn't get better than that. Well,
yeah. And it's actually exhausting to give something that's like repetitively, that's not your unique gift or unique obligation. So for example, as we're both teachers, and in teaching, when someone is really accessing, or podcasting, even when I'm a guest on another podcast, when they're accessing some of my unique gift, it's enlivening, it's energizing. But if I hear one more motherfucking time, so tell me why you started on it.
right.
I feel my energy draining out of my body at fucking rapid pace, like
right.
a stampede of energy buffalo going the wrong fucking way. I'm like, oh my God, I've answered this 300 fucking times. You really want me to answer this motherfucker again?
Right.
Like, okay, here we go. And same thing with like somebody who's asking a question that's, I can answer some way, but not even answer anywhere close to as good as myriad other people could answer, then it takes energy from me. But when somebody asks me a question that specifically I can answer, like say some interesting interweaving between polyamory and psychedelics, or some particular thing that I have particular insight about, or the darkness retreat contrasted with the boga or some. And I'm like, that's a fucking good question. And those are obviously extreme examples of my unique genius coming together. But in those questions, like, energy actually is filled into my body. And it's this beautiful thing that happens. And
it's gorgeous, right? Uniqueness is the conduit of energy.
Right.
Right? It just is.
And that's why also when somebody asks you, when your friend asks you, like, hey, can you help me move my house? It's like, oh God, because there's thousands of people who could move the house, like picking up furniture, packing boxes. There's you're not uniquely capable of doing that. You may do it because you're a good friend, but it's not going to be energizing. But if they're like, can you walk me through this difficult integration? I'm talking to me personally. Can you walk me through this difficult integration process after I had this strange DMT experience? And I'm looking around like, yeah, all right, I'm there. When do you need me? Now? Okay, cool. I'll cancel my shit. I'm there. And I'm actually happy to be there.
Right.
And that's I think that's an important distinction.
No, it's a great distinction. And of course, and this is self-evident in what you said, but of course there's particular moments when someone you love dearly is moving their house.
Yeah.
Right. But that becomes unique, not because of the action, but because of the relationship.
Yep.
And there's one. No, it's gorgeous. There's one last thing that maybe is worth saying. It's very subtle. It's very beautiful, which is that unique self implies something about the nature of who you are. And this is connected to kind of where are you in a certain ways and what do you want, but just this piece of it is key for unique self, which is unique self implies that you're intended. It's a very big, subtle, gorgeous realization that you can actually get in your body that just kind of wakes you up. In other words, my uniqueness tells me that I'm not like any other. And that actually it took Cosmos an enormous amount of effort, right, through generations of allurement, and allurement's a precise language of cosmic intelligence to generate me. And there's no one that ever was, is, or will be that's like me other than me, which means, oh, I'm intended. If I buy my wife a gift, and it's kind of the standard gift, doesn't matter how much it costs. It's a standard gift that people buy, or it's an expensive gift. It's a classical expensive gift. It's okay. It's nice. It's, sweet, or she buys it for me, or right? But if I have intention, right, I actually think about it, and I think about who she is and what she wants, and I create it, long in advance, right before her birthday. I don't do it. I do it like for 6 months. I'm intending it. So the deeper your intention, the more specific the intention, the more unique intention, the more love there is. That's what a human being is. A human being is exponentially unique, intended by reality. And the actual experience as a pointing out instruction for actual enlightenment, that's what we mean by the democratization of enlightenment. We can actually access the enlightened experience. So unique self itself is a pointing out instruction for my own enlightenment. I actually have an experience of reality intending me. It's like, wow, I have an experience of reality choosing me. Right? And what we do is we outsource being chosen to one person. So if we're not chosen by that one person, we're not chosen. And if that person, therefore, didn't remember our birthday far enough in advance, right, they're fucked and we're fucked because we've outsourced our experience of being intended to that one person. But actually, in the very structure of my being is I'm intended. When I actually get a sense of my uniqueness, I can actually get a sense, right, of actually being intended. So I've got to be able to look at myself, to get out of myself and look at myself and realize reality intended me. I for a bunch of years, I asked my students to carry around a mirror. We started it as a bathroom thing. We all did it when we're in the airport. You're in the airport, you go into the bathroom. And I know there's lots of things people can do in bathrooms on planes, but this was a different one, right? Which was
not that much. It's fucking cramped in there.
It's
what
cramped,
people
right?
are doing.
There's some limits, right?
Yeah.
Right. But so I would say to people, and the way I got to this teaching instruction was, it happened to me by accident once. As I go into the airport bathroom and I look in the mirror for a second, I'm like, wow, who's that? Now that doesn't happen in your mirror at home because it's ordinary. You're so used to your mirror at home that you're just part of your day. But sometimes you go into a different mirror you've never seen and you look and you say, who's that person? And you get this sense of like, wow, who is that? And you can actually see yourself in third person. When you can see yourself in third person, you can actually perceive yourself. You have a sense of perception of self you can't get it any other way, which is why self-love comes that way. And you can't do self-love by looking at yourself. You can only do self-love by actually doing a practice, which actually lets you look at yourself in third person, right?
There's another mirror, really yoga. And when I say yoga, like exercise, actually. And I stumbled upon it in my own journeys. One day, I was on a particularly thick dose of psilocybin mushrooms. And I went to the mirror and I was just going to wash my hands after going to the bathroom or something. And I started looking at myself. And I had that experience, as you've described in the unique self experience, of seeing myself through God's eyes as me, through me,
Right.
and seeing myself looking back. And it was like this really potent experience where I saw all my animality, of course, all the hairs that were bristling out of my body, but also all the light that was pouring through every cell of my being. And I stayed there for a while, and a little smile crept on my face. And I was like, hey, there you are.
There you are.
There you are,
That's
Aubrey.
it. That's
there
exactly
you
it.
are.
That's exactly it, right?
Yep.
So literally, that's exactly that experience. So you're in the bathroom of the plane, right? And You look in the mirror, you're like, wow, who is that? And you get to fall in love with that person.
Mm.
That's called self-love.
Mhm.
That's actually what self-love is. I mean, the way I do it, and again, just her grace, practices, new yogas emerge spontaneously, is I was working with a dear friend of mine, right? Student and friend who we worked together for 10 years, and just self-love wasn't working. So what we did is we said, let's put a baby, between us on the floor. Let's put the baby on a nice place on the floor, kind of nice and, cushy carpets. The baby's comfortable. And I said, okay, whether that baby lives or dies depends on you. Whoa, depends on me whether that baby lives or dies? Yep, if you love that baby lives. So I asked her, okay, is that baby alive? Yes, why is that baby alive? Well, that baby's alive because I'm loving that baby. Okay, 6 months old. A year old. Is that baby alive? Yes, why is that baby alive? Because I'm loving that baby. And we went through, maybe we must have done it 20 times. Is that baby alive? Yes, why? I'm loving that baby. That baby only lives. I said, I'm the Lord of hosts. I decree that baby only lives if you love that baby. So we went through all the years until we got to her age. And her age was, let's say, 57. I said, okay, now we're at 57. Is that baby alive or dead? Baby's alive. Why is that baby alive? I'm loving that baby. Okay, that baby's name is her name. So the first time, right, she had this like beautiful, stunning, her whole just came alive and had a direct, clear experience. And Kyle and I just actually did this practice, actually, as we were chatting. And it's fantastic, gorgeous practice because you can't love yourself just by going inside.
Yeah.
Right? Because you can't find yourself inside. If I want to access Aubrey-ness, Aubrey, taste of Aubrey, good. We talked about this the other day. But I can't access myself, so I've got to see myself in third person, which is what happened to you in the journey.
Yep.
So I actually look at myself and I say, wow, reality intended this. Wow. Right? I didn't decide where to be born. I didn't decide how to be born. I didn't decide to who to be born. I didn't decide when to be born. I didn't decide with what capacities to be born. I'm being lived by this larger thing. Reality intended me. I belong here. I'm welcome. Reality chose me. And then you get to reality needs me. Right? Right? That's the experience of unique self. It's the source of joy. It's the source of human dignity. And it's actually our true nature. And maybe 10-second break. I'm just going to get something I'm going to do. Aubrey, I grabbed as I walked out, this poem, which I love, by Walt Whitman. And the crazy thing is that everyone thinks, people always send it to me about, this is a unique self poem, but it's exactly not. Right? And maybe this is a great place to close on why isn't it? So this is a gorgeous Walt Whitman called O Me, O Life. And do you remember that movie? What was it called? It's a great movie, The Dead Poets Society.
Mm-hmm.
So this was kind of core in the Dead Poets Society, where we're ostensibly Robin Williams, we talked about in the beginning, so it's good that we're talking about him at the end. We started with the Robin Williams, we're ending with the Robin Williams. There's actually a text in the Book of Creation, 2,200 years old, which says that a great conversation, not with intention, but just the nature of things, sofan na'utzpa tchilatanu, tchilatanu na'utzpa sofan, the beginning is in the end, and the end is the beginning. Right, so the demarcating characteristic of a holy conversation is that somehow
weaves together,
in the beginning and the end. So that's actually what just happened, quite literally. So it's Robin Williams, right, is doing this poem actually in Dead Poets Society, but it's a great Whitman poem where he reads, O me, O life, of the questions of these recurring, of the endless trains of the faithless, of cities filled with the foolish, right, of myself forever reproaching myself, for who more foolish than I and who more faithless, right, of eyes that vainly crave the light of the objects mean, of the struggles ever renewed, of the poor results of all, of the plotting and sordid crowds I see around me, of the empty and useless years, of the rest with the rest of me entwined. The question, O me, so sad recurring, what good amid these, O me, O life? And his response is that you are here, that life exists in identity, that the powerful play goes on, and you may contribute a verse. So on the one hand, it's really beautiful. And it is, he's intuiting a unique self-consciousness, that you may contribute a verse. But here's the thing, and that's where we were so precise in our first dialogue. What Whitman is saying is, even though it's sordid crowds, and even though it may be over when it's over, And even though it might be a tale told by an idiot, full of sounds and fury signifying nothing, okay, but you have an experience of contributing in a verse. That's not what unique self is saying. Unique self is saying, no, the world is overflowing with meaning. And it's all significant. You've actually realized that you may contribute a verse is written to the separate self.
Mm-hmm.
The separate self is trying to wrest meaning. That's not what unique self is. Unique self is the world's filled with meaning. You're actually part of the seamless code of the universe. You're part of the field of consciousness, which is the field of desire, which is the field of value, which is the field of meaning. And you're contributing a verse not absently, but as an expression of a cosmos overflowing with meaning. So you're not just contributing a verse, you're contributing a verse to the cosmic scroll. It's not the same. It's not a random verse. It's not an existential claim for meaning. And what Robin Williams does beautifully, it's a great movie. What he says to the kids is, in the movie, and he uses the Whitman poem in that context, he says, in the beginning of the movie, he brings them to see the pictures of the old students who used to be there, who were young in their age. And he says, listen to the whispers. Can you hear them? Can you hear them? It's a very beautiful scene. But now they're just fertilizing the grass. There's nothing left of them. So what should you do? He brings out the Whitman poem, at least contribute a verse. It's exactly not unique self. Unique self means reality is filled with meaning. You're part of the field of meaning, and we need your unique verse, right? As your unique letter in the Torah, right? Your unique verse in the cosmic scroll. Unique self.
So Christian raised a good question that we thought we would circle back here and answer,
Totally.
because I think it's important. The question being, well, what if I don't feel like I have a unique self?
Right.
And I think that question arises when you start comparing what you think is your unique self with somebody else's unique self, which is the exact antithesis
of unique self.
Of unique self.
Right. I mean, that's exactly it. The question is a question of what matters. You know, there's a text in the lineage from Tractate Psachim, that's the name of this tome, in page, I think, 50a, which tells the story of a near-death experience. It's an early near-death experience. And so the person comes back and they say, what did you see? And he says, Olam hafuch ra'iti, I saw a world turned upside down. Meaning that which we think matters actually is irrelevant, the great speech, the big public thing, and all of these seemingly innocuous and private moments are actually of unimaginable value. You know, I remember reading a book by William Safire, who was a New York Times columnist, back in the day, called Great Speeches in History. And they were all about these great public speeches. And I wrote him an angry letter as a kid. I said, why do you think the great speeches in history happen in public? They happen maybe at 4 a.m. between a person and their partner. They happen, in a business. Yeah. They happen, right? They happen all over the place. So our sense that which is public, that which is famous, that which is witnessed, which is kind of an early Instagram consciousness.
Yeah.
Right?
Well said.
Right. That's actually a devaluation of unique self. It's exactly the opposite of unique self, as you said so beautifully, so correctly. Actually, my uniqueness shows up in 2 ways. First off, in my being. My unique self is not just my public unique gift to someone. It's in the way I uniquely show up in reality. That's not my unique becoming. It's not evolution moving through me to do something. It's my very beingness. When it's actually authentic, it's clarified, it's really me, there's great joy. And in just me actually being the depth of my authenticity. And second is, my gift is not just that which is powerful, that which is monetized. Right? It's me giving the unique gift of my insight, my presence. It may be me exchanging a word with the teller at the bank, right? And by the way, it's one of the reasons it's so tragic when we move everything online. It's because we miss lots of unique self-encounters. But in all of my encounters, right, both in the online world and in the personal world, right, every single encounter is a unique self-invitation. Every single encounter is a place to give a gift. Every single encounter is infinitely significant. And there's always a place to create value. Having said that, our political, economic, obligation is to create maximal opportunity for maximal people to actually give the fullness of their unique selves. And it's actually correct that it's tragic in the world where there's an inequity, right, of unique self possibility. Like, there's always unique self possibility in the worst and most horrific time. And maybe it's a good place to close. There's a story of a wow, I haven't thought about this in a long time, brother. Right? There's a story that a close friend of mine told that her father used to tell, where her father was a folk singer and beautiful man and a kind of mystic, lineage thinker. And he told a story of him walking on Hayarkon Street, which is the street on the beach in Tel Aviv, and running into a street sweeper. And the street sweeper was, they started talking. And, her father, Shlomo was his name, noticed something about his accent, the accent of the street sweeper, that seemed to be connected to a very important master called the master from Piaseczna, who was killed in Treblinka, right, in the Holocaust. And this master was called the Rebbe, the teacher of children. So he says to him, "Did you know the Holy Master?" Right? And he says, "Yes, I actually knew him. I was one of his children." And he says, like, "Wow, Gewalt, like you were one of his children, right? Who are you? How'd you get here?" And the street sweeper was a hunchback. It was completely bent over. And he says, "I'll tell you what happened. Right? I was one of his children, and his services were gorgeous, and he opened up the heavens. And the way I got bent over is when I was in the camps. I was strong when I came, and they beat me so hard that I hunched. And so many times I would want to go to the fence that was electric and kill myself. But I remembered what that master, the master of Piaseczna, used to say. When he would gather all the children, he would say, "The beste Sache in der Welt, the one thing that you can always do, no matter what's happening, is to emetz and tova, is to do a favor for someone." So here I was bent over, right, in the camp. Right? I was completely hunched back and disfigured, but because I was bent over, I could listen to anyone. And so I would walk around and I would just listen to people. And they would tell me their stories and their suffering. And I would listen. And that's how I survived. Like, wow. Right? And the words of the Piaseczna, no matter where you are, the beste Sache in der Welt, the most beautiful thing you can do, is to emetz and tova, is to do someone a favor. And that's always possible, no matter where I am, no matter what's happening. I can always be in that car in Utah, right, and receive someone. That's unique self right there.
There it is.
Amen. Cha.
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah. What a joy, brother.
What a joy.
Yay.
Been an amazing week.
Amazing week. Oh, my God.
Thank you, everybody, for tuning into these dialogues. Many more to come. We love you.
Cha.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for tuning into this video. Make sure you hit subscribe. Follow me at Aubrey Marcus. Check out the Aubrey Marcus podcast, available everywhere. And leave a comment. Let me know if this video resonated or what else you would like to hear from me in the future. Thank you so much.